The wrong button there. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Normal America Show. Yeah, man, I don't know what it is. That was my little tribute to Gonzalo Lira there. My favorite James Bond movie that I've seen, Casino Royale with Daniel Craig. Love Chris Cornell, his opening song there. But, geez Louise, what a weekend, right? News-wise, my goodness. I can't contemplate what the bigger story is. There's basically three things I want to talk about. First, I think it's important to talk about who I support going into this primary, seeing as how the Iowa caucus is, I believe, tomorrow. You know, then you have the January 13th insurrection. How the Steelers will do tomorrow. We can't forget that. I don't know. Probably poorly, but normally when I make a prediction from the Steelers, they do the opposite. So maybe they'll do well. I don't know. And then, of course, there's Gonzalo Lira, it looks like, is officially dead. A person that I did not know well. I don't know their work that well. But it's a person that has my respect. And I think it's important to talk about. And what this death illustrates for so many other people in these spaces and this community. What's up, Timothy? Long time no see. Also a Steelers fan, I believe, Timothy. So, or at least from around Pittsburgh, at least at one point, I believe. I think we'll start with the Gonzalo Lira stuff, although the other two stories are important. Maybe we'll stream a while. We'll try to get to all of it. I guess I'll talk a little about my week before we get into it. So the last you heard from me was, I think, last Tuesday when my debate with Pisco. There's some more to say on that. Maybe we'll talk about that a little. And, one of the reasons I like doing the debates is, I don't know why. If it's just that I end up debating about stuff that's prescient at the time or what, but oftentimes I do debates and within a week something will happen and it sort of helps prove the point that I was trying to make. And I think that happened in this debate surrounding January 6th with now the new January 13th insurrection. By the way, they didn't arrest anyone. Womp womp. What are my thoughts on the AI-generated Carlin special? I have not even heard of it, so I have no thoughts on it. But in general, I'll say you'll see more and more of this. If they have enough of your voice and enough of your thoughts, eventually they'll be able to program you with an AI to make a reasonable facsimile of not just your voice saying things they write, but creating things that sounds like something you may have created. I became verse we don't drown. Don't know. So, yeah, we'll talk about this stuff. My weekend was great. I got to spend some time with the family, which is always good. Started to take down Christmas stuff. We had some inflatable dinosaurs in the yard. The wind blew them too hard, and they ended up going across the road into my neighbors and blah, blah, blah. Hey, what's up, Jojo? How you doing, man? So that was my big project. I still got a lot of Christmas stuff to clean up, but hopefully I get to it this week. Weather not conducive to doing a lot this week. So, yeah, I mean, the January 13th insurrection, important to talk about. But I think we'll start with, oh, you got a new eye patch? That's cool, man. I'll have to talk to you soon, see how your eye's doing. The first topic, Gonzalo Lira, I don't find humor in it at all. It's a very depressing topic, but I think that's awesome, Jesse. Yeah. But I guess we'll start with it, and then we'll move going forward. Now, let me first say, yeah, is that true, Caligula? I remember things such as that. I don't remember specific individuals doing it, but I know that was going around. So let me tell you a little of my knowledge of Gonzalo Lira. I know about as little as you could imagine. I know he went by Coach Red Pill. I know that he was in Ukraine. He was a U.S. citizen. He was critical of the Ukrainian war. He was accused of being on the payroll of Russia. I don't see any proof of that. Was allegedly spreading Putin's talking points. A phrase that's near and dear to my heart because it's been said about me over and over again, even though I have no love for Vladimir Putin. I don't know much of Coach Red Pill or Gonzalo Lira beyond that. I've probably seen 10 minutes of his content my entire life. So why am I so I don't know what the word is. Upset? Depressed? About what happened. Let me speak of him in generalities first. Something I've said, someone who would have probably been directly antagonistic on Caligula says there's tweets about it. I think that's probably right. I remember reading those. Dylan Burns. One of the things I'll say positive of Dylan Burns, which I could also say of Gonzalo Lira, is regardless of what you think of their politics, they were on basically the front line of what their issue was. Like, take those two out of it. Let's say Scott Presler. Scott Presler is one of my favorite people. If you don't know of him, he goes by The Persistence on X. He is a Republican activist. Thank you so much, Chuckles, for the sub. I really appreciate it. He's a Republican activist who, as far as I know, got his start, and he's still doing it. He did it in Pittsburgh just this week. He goes into inner city areas with a lot of volunteers, and he cleans up garbage. He cleans up 3 city blocks or something like that. Just tons and tons of garbage that he's cleaning. And then he's out there trying to get people to register to vote Republican. And I think there's something to be said, even if someone you disagree with politically, that's sort of actually becoming active, doing things in the real world. When it comes to a war or an area of the world that you have an affinity for, actually being there and sort of, however you're looking at it, putting skin in the game matters. I believe it's the latter. Did I spell it wrong? I believe it's with an A. Did I spell it with an O? That's terrible if I did. Yeah, I spelled his name wrong. Anyways, that's terrible. Lira goes further than Dylan Burns, though. Because Lira is saying his opinion within a country that is actively hostile towards him. At great risk to himself. And he paid the ultimate price. Now, you may hate his political opinion, but that's putting your own skin on the line in a way that very few people, myself included, have done. One of, probably my favorite stand-up comedians, Norm Macdonald, and he used to be one of the judges on Last Comic Standing, and I remember there was this bit where this guy gets up and he does a comedy bit routine where he's making fun of Christians, and he basically says, if you're going to use the Christian Bible, I'm going to use Harry Potter. Ha ha ha. And he makes fun of Christians. And afterwards, Norm's like, I don't think this is funny at all. If you knew anything about J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter's an allegory for Christianity. But the thing he said that stuck with me the most, and this is true, he said, it's not brave to tell these jokes in front of this crowd. It might be brave to tell them in front of a church, But in front of this crowd, this wherever it was, California crowd of liberals, it would actually be brave to be Christian. That would be what would be brave. It's so easy to be progressive. Every cultural influence, every cultural institution has your back. The political positions that you could take to be the most popular are easy. It's easy to see what they would be. They're not criticizing Ukraine. They weren't criticizing COVID. They weren't criticizing Russiagate. I'll tell you that. I don't consider myself the best conservative. I don't even think I'm a good conservative. I'm more of a populist than I am a conservative. I am conservative, though. But I am also contrarian. There is something about me that likes rooting for the underdog. There is. If the pendulum swings back so far that we're telling gay people that it's a crime to be gay, I'd be right there fighting for gay people's rights, saying no. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that from me. It's the truth. We're nowhere near that. We're at the point now where they're shoving it down your throat, where it's culturally detrimental to be heterosexual. But I like the underdog. Maybe it's because I grew up listening to the Dead Kennedys and the Sex Pistols and metal music. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm unimpressed. I'm unimpressed with the litany of streamers and personalities I see that adopt the easiest popular position and then think they're brave. Dylan's a little different because he's actually at least in an active war zone. That's a level of bravery. But not reputationally. What Gonzalo Lira did is real bravery. Not just being in the war zone, in the country that's actively hostile to you, but actually espousing opinions from that country that you have to know are amongst the least popular cultural positions that you could take at this point in time for an American. That is beyond what I've done. I'm not in Ukraine. I've criticized Ukraine. I've said we shouldn't be sending money, but I'm not there. And for him to be there and do that takes courage. I've heard all kinds of rumors. He was a racist. He was an anti-Semite. He was this. Could be true, could not. I don't care. It's irrelevant. Those terms have been so oversaturated, I no longer even have an inkling to look into it when someone says it. My default position at this point, when someone says, that person is a racist or that person is an anti-Semite, is, that person just said something progressives don't like. I don't even care anymore to look. I've been called all of those words myself. It's not true. I'm not racist. I'm not bigot. Don't give a shit. It's a shame because there are racists. I just don't care. We'll get to that. Guess who farted? I just want to take a moment to say this about Gonzalo Lira before I move on. I don't want to give the impression that his life didn't matter. That what matters in this story is what he represents. What he represented and the reaction to him dying in a Ukrainian prison are very important. But take nothing away from him as a person. I did not know him. I will not claim that I somehow have some level of grief to make this about me. It's not about me. He has a family. He had friends. He's a human being. and he's dead. And to them, that's the most important thing, as it should be. And we should not make light of that. Before anyone accuses me of being hypocritical, one of the good friends of this show is my friend Aircraft Sparky. I did a debate with Aircraft Sparky on Brittany Griner. And if anyone remembers, as surprising as it may be, what was my take on Brittany Griner? That despite the fact I might not like her opinions, and despite the fact that she thumbed her nose on what it is to be American, and thumbed her nose at this country, she's still an American. And that our government should take reasonable steps to try to bring her home. I don't know if that means releasing terrorists or arms merchants. And that whatever the circumstances were that led to her coming home, to me, the fact that she is an American with family, I felt good for her and her family that she was coming home. That's how I felt. So I want to hear any shit from any bad faith lefties that'll be coming in here tonight, or we'll see a VOD of this video or something and go, oh, Rob's just saying that because Lira agreed with his position on Ukraine. No, that's my feeling. And so we're about to move on to what Lira represents and the reaction to him represents. But I just want to say one final time, I am so sorry for the friends and loved ones of Gonzalo Lira. I really am. And I don't want to give the impression that I knew him, or that it's somehow about me or about geopolitics or anything like that. You lost a loved one, and I feel horrible about that. And so I'm sorry, and may Lira rest in peace. I don't know if he was a religious man, but may he end up in a better place. What does this story represent? There are lefties that would want you executed for disagreeing with them politically. That's what it represents. I did a video back when Tucker Carlson did his video with Gonzalo Lira's dad, and I talked a little about him. And I've reached out to people I know that didn't like Coach Red Pill, that didn't like Lira. What was his crime? What was the crime that got him locked up? Because I know I could listen to Tucker, or I could listen to other people that are tangentially associated with my political beliefs. But what are the people that dislike Lira? What are they saying? What did the Ukrainian government say? Yeah, it was in general he was reporting on what's going on in Ukraine. But what specifically, what crime did they charge him with? Here's the best I could find. And I looked this up because I knew. You see, when I go on and I stream with someone like Destiny, temporarily, and it has diminishing returns, I'll start to get some of Destiny's fans and orbiters that'll start responding by watching my channel or commenting on my tweets. And so some of them, you can kind of tell by seeing the direction the same sort of names are posting. They weren't the biggest fan of Lira, and they were saying things like, don't die on this hill, Rob. Lira was a bad dude. What did he do? You know what? They sent me the links that what he did. He was charged with, someone correct me if I'm wrong, if you have other information. This is what I was able to find. He was basically charged with denying war crimes of Russia, and I'm not making this second one up, making fun of Ukrainian troops. Don't bother them too much, Jojo. I know I'm talking to them soon. Making fun of Ukrainian troops. Now, I'd also heard this third implication, but it wasn't what he was charged with that I could see, that he was filming video of Ukrainian troops that then Russia could use to pinpoint. But He wasn't charged with that. And it seems as if he was filming troops, like, in public, in the city where he was at. It wasn't like he was traipsing through the bush, like in camouflage in a ghillie suit, with a camera showing frontline troops or something like that. Destiny says Rob is one of the nicest people in the right he's debated. I heard someone say that. Thanks, Destiny. I would much more rather Destiny hated me and had a more sensible political position, but whatever. I appreciate it nonetheless. 436.2 of Ukrainian Criminal Code. Right. Can you paste what it says? So the defense that I was getting for why, thank you, Ethan, I appreciate it, for why he had it coming, Gonzalo had it coming, Coach Red Pill had it coming, was we should have known better. He should have known better. You can't be in Ukraine saying that stuff. You ever notice how people on the left, right, when it's an actual scumbag criminal that has something bad happen to them, and sometimes beyond what deserved to happen to them, like George Floyd, if you said, well, George Floyd shouldn't have been a drug head, he shouldn't have been on fentanyl, shouldn't have been trying to pass counterfeit money, they'll go, how dare you? That doesn't mean that he deserved to die. True. I agree with that portion of it. He probably, I don't know, Brian Healy, we'll get to that later. Justification, recognition as legitimate, denial of armed aggression of Russian Federation against Ukraine, glorification of its participants. Right. So basically, Russia's not that bad. That's it. That's his crime. If that's a crime worth imprisonment, what do you think the lefties that cheer for that would want to happen to me if Joe Biden gets us into a war, like say in Yemen, and I say, I don't like that? Or let's say Joe Biden decides to go along with Israel and bomb Hamas, and I say, I don't like that. Then what? What if I say, I don't think Hamas is that bad? I'm not saying that, by the way. But what if I said that? Do I deserve to be imprisoned like Lira? What if I criticize the Iraq War? What if I criticized the Vietnam War? What about all those people that criticize? Should they have all been locked up as well? Isn't it amazing how far the left has come? From the party of anti-war, the group of anti-war, the hippies at Woodstock protesting Vietnam, to, well, hey, Coach Red Pill should have known better than to criticize Ukraine while they're in a war. Now they'll say, well, there's not a First Amendment in Ukraine. And Ukraine's being invaded, so that's different. Really? Than, say, 9/11? You may not have liked it, but people had the right, the day after 9/11 if they chose, the day of 9/11 if they chose, to say this was the fault of the United States. They should not have been meddling in the Middle East. Not a position I would agree with. There's some truth to it. But I would have said, my God, that's disgusting to say this on the day of 9/11. When bodies are still being identified. Nonetheless, those people did not deserve to go to prison. I would defend their right to say it, but not Coach Red Pill, says the left. Nope. He should have known better. So should Dylan Burns then. Right? If he gets hit with a mortar tomorrow, do you think these people on the left will go, he should have known better. He should not have been there. He knew it was an active war zone. I wouldn't say that. if, God forbid, Dylan be over there in a certain province and Russia take over it? Like if Dylan's in Kherson and Russia takes over and he's still embedded with people there and he gets captured, would these people say, hey, should have known what he was doing? Well, Ethan, let me be clear, right? I believe I read the charges. Someone else posted them. Let me be clear. Labels are difficult and never all-encompassing, and yet also inevitable. And so when I say the left, I don't mean every single person that identifies as someone on the left. Would you deny this? There are an awful lot of people today, Ethan, on the left that are saying, well, hey, even if they didn't want Coach Red Pill to die, what does he expect? He can't criticize Ukraine while he's there, and so that's what's to be expected. The reason that this situation is so bad... So, one, it shows all of these people that are willing to... that I've interacted with on Twitter and elsewhere, that are willing to be like, well, hey, he had it coming. Fuck you. From the bottom of my heart, fuck you. I will defend anyone from... Not anyone, I can't say. There are certain groups of people that I won't defend for their death. A serial killer gets the death penalty, or a child assaulter or something. Those things are different. Maybe like terrorist leaders or generals in foreign war. But journalists? Commentators? Influencers? And there have been times where there have been groups on the right that I've seen mocking someone's death, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It wasn't as bad as, say, Herman Cain and how the left tore into him, but even with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, someone whose politics I despised, I always try to remind myself, everyone has a family. Everyone. And they're hurting when their family member dies. So, I mean, we're not that far away. If you could make the leap, people in this chat when talking about Ukrainians, show them to me. Someone on here. I find all of the videos coming out of that conflict on Twitter, the glee that people will watch. It doesn't matter if it's Ukrainian soldier or Russian soldier. Oh, here's a drone killing a Russian soldier. Ha-ha! Oh, here's, a tank blowing up Ukrainians. Ha-ha! It's fucking hell. It's war. It's horrible. I'm no pacifist. I understand human nature. I understand conflict's inevitable. But my God, I don't want that karma of mocking soldiers even from countries I don't like and their death. Regardless, if you could make the case, if you are someone, I don't give a shit your political side, left, right, whatever, and you could make the case that somehow Gonzalo Lira deserved to be imprisoned, basically with no excommunicado, with no communication coming out to his family, apparently in conditions bad enough that it led to him, if we believe the official story, developing a medical condition which killed him. If you think the crime of, well, he was in a country at war and making fun of that country, or saying the other side wasn't that bad, if you think that justifies that sort of imprisonment and ultimate death, then you're a stone's throw from thinking it should be the same way in the United States. And it's backed up by polling that you can see things are getting more and more ridiculous. Such as the YouGov poll that showed that damn near 1/3 of Democrats said that children should be removed from your home if you weren't vaccinated. 50% said that you should be forcibly detained in your own home. How far are we from questioning the election? Thank you, Aftershock. I appreciate it. We already had questioning the 2020 election gets you censored. How far are we from questioning election gets you imprisoned? The other thing to say is this. Allegedly, Ukraine is our ally. More than that, Ukraine at this point is almost solely dependent on financial and military assistance from outside of its own borders. So to countries like the United States and other European countries. You expect a certain behavior that it is in line with your own culture and your own values if you are basically putting up a surrogate nation. You are basically enabling them to fight a war. The bare minimum of that should be, you can't detain our citizens, ultimately leading to their death for the crime of criticizing you. That's the bare minimum. The bare minimum. If Russia would have kidnapped a pro-Ukrainian American YouTuber, do you think that many of the same people criticizing Gonzalo Lira would say, well, yeah, whatever? Or would they have said Russia is monstrous? How could they do that? They're monsters. The difference is, we expect by the very nature of a country being our enemy to them to act in ways that are antithetical to what we consider normal decency. That's the nature of war. You would like to think that we're more civilized, but we're not. It would be nice to have sort of a Geneva Convention mindset, where you say, although we may be in a life and death struggle with each other, here are certain parameters that we will both, as civilized nations, say that that conflict should fall within. You do not target civilians. You do not torture prisoners. One of those should be, you do not go after members of the press or influencers or personalities for the mere crime of criticizing you. Those are civilians. But you could expect, especially what we're told by our administration, that Russia are these evil monsters. They murdered journalist Khashoggi, and regardless if you think that's true or not, you could believe it's within the realm of possibility that Russia may do something like that. They may go after a pro-Western journalist, American citizen, that was in their country and lock them up, and then if they died, just be like, sorry, they died. That's bad enough. But why would you expect your ally to do that? How can that be the case? Joe Biden administration, regardless if you think this is the correct or incorrect position, decided to get a WNBA player out of Russia for what we would consider a small crime, like a marijuana crime. He was willing to not only engage in negotiations, well, his administration was, but they actually released someone that is considered a pretty serious prisoner in a prisoner swap, the Merchant of Death. Ethan Monteith, obviously is a lefty, not a very intelligent person. I have not assumed that he was murdered by a Ukrainian government. I said that he was detained, was not allowed communication, and was in a condition that apparently, if we take it face value, to allow a medical condition of his to exacerbate to the point of death. Now, it could be that he was tortured and killed in prison. I don't know and haven't said that. I'm going by the official story that we are given and saying that story is unacceptable. So, Ethan, I understand it's difficult for, you said you're a lefty. We can tell. Those of us listening and watching what you're saying can tell. I understand for folks like you don't have the highest intelligence. I get that. So let me talk slowly for you, Ethan, and any other lefty that may be listening. The criticisms I have of Ukraine's handling of this situation do not require them to have intentionally tortured Lira, intentionally executed Lira, intentionally withheld medical aid from Lira. Do you understand? The criticisms that I'm making, neither of those three things are necessary. If any of those three things happened, it is far worse, but they're not necessary to levy the criticism which I'm levying. My understanding was that he was an American citizen. He was born in the United States. Everybody got that? Before I'm accused of, Rob, all of your criticisms are that Ukraine tortured and murdered him. No! They may have. I have no reason to believe them at face value, but I'm criticizing the official story that we told and how bad that makes them look. Got it? Everyone got it? Great. Moving forward. Dude's an American. He criticized Ukraine in Ukraine. If Ukraine didn't like it, they had absolutely every right and expectation to say, get the F out. We're putting you on the first plane back to California or wherever you're from. See you, dude. And if you come back again, then the punishment's going to be harsher. But instead, they did the opposite. Instead, they locked him up, then let him go to what was tantamount to house arrest, I believe, pending a continuing investigation. And then he put videos up that was like, I'm trying to flee Ukraine. At that point, what danger was he to Ukraine? What, were they worried he was going to get to Italy and criticize Ukraine? Oh, that would be too much, right? He needs to be imprisoned if he's criticizing Ukraine. If he made it to another country, they wouldn't be able to lock him up for that crime. But what's the harm? If I go to Ukraine for whatever reason, and they find a video of me from 2 months ago saying we should stop sending aid to Ukraine, do they have the right to lock me up? Would my government say, man, sorry, we can't speak on that. You shouldn't have criticized Ukraine. Thank you, Tengo, for the sub. I really appreciate it. This is not our enemy. I could understand our enemy doing this. I could understand Russia or North Korea or China locking up an influencer that had dual citizenship, that was American, because he was in China criticizing China. That I understand. Even in that case, my friend Aircraft Sparky's on here. He could back this up. I literally had a debate with Aircraft Sparky where I was defending trying to do what we can to get Brittany Griner back. That is what America should in general do. For some reason, they went out of their way to give concessions, the Biden administration, to Russia to release dangerous prisoners in exchange for Brittany Griner, but they didn't even pick up a phone for our ally to release an American citizen in the form of Gonzalo Lira. Why? How could any administration allow this? How could the same people that were telling us when the Merchant of Death was released for Brittany Griner, which I was tangentially part of, saying, listen, we have to get Americans back. That's what all these Biden fanboys were saying as well. Oh, Aircraft Sparky, it doesn't matter. Listen. Your opinion and my opinion on whether or not Ukraine is an ally is irrelevant, right? What is relevant is the official position of the United States that Ukraine is our ally. of the current administration. Furthermore, they're not just an ally, they're dependent on us. Let me give you an example, right? Let's say that you have two neighbors, and one neighbor is your brother, and your other neighbor is just some random person. And you hate your neighbor that's the random person. You can't stand them. You absolutely despise them. And one day your kid's out in the yard, and they throw their baseball into the neighbor you despise, that you've been fighting with for years, into their yard. And your neighbor takes the baseball and takes it in their house and says, I told you don't throw things in my yard, and keeps it. You may go to that neighbor and say, I would like the baseball back. What do I have to do to get the baseball back? And there might be a conflict there. There might be some sort of negotiation. Okay, whatever. If your kid throws the baseball into your sibling's yard, who you're good friends with, you have a great relationship with, you don't expect your sibling to be like, no, I'm sorry, you can't have the baseball back. You'd be like, wait, what? Why? Dude, just give it back. No problem, right? But that analogy doesn't really work, because that's just your enemy versus your ally. This is even worse. Now imagine your brother comes to you and says, I have to sell my house. I have to move in with you. I'm now dependent on you. And you say, that's okay. I like you. By all means, move in. Your family. We'll take care of you. We understand that you need our financial assistance in order to continue your life to the level that it's been. So you give them your spare room, and then one day your kid's playing, and the ball rolls into the spare room, and the brother says, no, you can't have it back. Nope. And you'd be like, but why? We're good friends. Nope. And then the next thing you'd say is, okay, you're dependent on me. So when you're in my house, when I'm paying the bills, it's my rules. And my rule is, you're going to give that ball back, or you're out. That's what Ukraine is. Ukraine, for better or worse, you might be watching right now and you're Ukrainian and you say, well, it's not like we wanted to be dependent on the United States. Maybe so, but you are. And so when you detain an American citizen, and the crime is one of just disagreeing, they made fun of us. The first thing you should be doing is picking up the phone and saying, hey, United States, we got this guy here we don't like. We think they're agitating. They're making fun of us. We're going to send him back to you. Okay? Or what do you want done with this? You don't lock him up, then release him under like house arrest, and then when he tries to flee the country, lock him up again to the point where he dies. You don't do that. Yeah, what did JoJo do to me? We should not have been financing Ukraine. But there is zero doubt at this point that they should ever receive another United States dime. They detained an American who died as a result for the crime of free speech. That is not defending democracy. That's it. End of story. An American is dead because he voiced his opinion. And the country that's dependent on me and yours tax dollars to survive are the ones that did it. And this piece of shit administration let it happen. They didn't make one attempt that we're aware of to ever bring Lira back. And if they did make an attempt, and Ukraine resisted that attempt, all the more reason to never give them another dime. The reason that there wasn't an effort to bring Lira back is not because the Biden administration wasn't aware about it. It's because Lira represents everything that they despise. They relish what Ukraine did to Lira. That's what the Biden administration, ooh, that pesky Constitution. Ooh, that pesky free speech. If only we could get rid of it, then we too could lock up the people that criticize our administration. And wouldn't that be glorious? And there you have it. Thank you so much. I'm glad that this Ethan... Do you read this Ethan guy in the chat? You thought I was making it up. You thought I was making up when I said that I saw these left. Ethan even said he wasn't one of the ones that said Lira had it coming, that he deserved it. There you have it. Do you see? Do you see what so many on the left's position on this? He's dead because he had a medical condition. Just because he's American doesn't give him immunity. The crime, again, I'll guarantee you, this Ethan guy, I will guarantee you, had Brittany Griner not been allowed to communicate with anyone while she is in prison, and then died in a Russian prison, and Russia said, oh, well, she had a medical condition, I will guarantee you that Ethan and the rest of these Democrats wouldn't have said, hey, she broke the law, that's the way it goes, man. Just because she's American, who gives a shit, right? The law he broke was making fun of Ukrainian troops, sympathizing with Russia. He's allowed to do that. He's an American. If you say, oh, not according to Ukraine's law, then one, Ukraine isn't a democracy and we should not be defending them whatsoever. They are authoritarian and we should have no business with them. And second, because they are dependent on us for money, we should no longer give them money if they're going to detain people for what we consider to be human rights. Let's say in Ukraine, let's say tomorrow Zelensky says, and by the way, it's okay to rape anyone as long as you think that they were sympathizing with Russia. Right? Let's say that happens. Do you think Ethan will say, hey, that's the law over there. That's the law. If you're American and you get raped over there, but you knew the law. You knew what the law was. That's the law. I am attributing to his death to the people that locked him up for what we consider a human right, and the people in the Ukrainian administration and in the Biden administration that allowed that lockup to occur, knowing that he was a United States citizen, instead of deporting him. Okay, Ethan, you're right. I'm assuming motives to you. So, Ethan, here's what we'll do. You have your chance to call in. You have 2 minutes to call in. If you don't, you're banned from the channel forever. So I will ask you your motive. You seem to be very opinionated on it. So now you'll have your chance to say your piece. I'll give you the equal amounts of times that you have with me. Go ahead, Ethan. You get your chance to call in. I'll post the Discord link. You can go ahead and call yourself in. Oh, shit. All right. Let's see. There's the link. You have your chance to call in. You got 2 minutes on the clock. Now, for the rest of you, the point I'm making, the link was just posted. I'll post one more time. There. The link literally, it just showed up on the screen. It's also in the YouTube chat. Twice it's posted. Now, for the rest of people, the fact that this is a country that is dependent on the United States, and apparently not only did the United States not reach out, again, someone explain to me why we have drug laws in this country, right? We do. And so if a person goes to a foreign country and violates their drug laws, that's more in line with U.S. law, regardless if you like that or not, than the ability to criticize your government or other governments. That's what Lira did. Lira criticized Zelensky. Lira criticized Ukraine and stuck up for Russia. You're allowed to do that in this country. That falls right in with the First Amendment. And so a country that we're helping out to help democracy, that we're saying is a great country, that's locking up their own citizens and not giving them free speech, is troubling enough as to whether or not we should be supporting them. But locking up American citizens should be a completely non-starter. No. And it's not even like what we had to do with Russia. Good. He's in the waiting room. Should be good. You there?
I am. And I'm going to push to talk so I don't have to overtalk you.
Okay. So your take is, Gonzalo, we can't blame anyone. He knew the laws there. He broke them. That's just the way it is, correct?
No.
Go ahead. Give us your take.
I think that Gonzalo ran away to Ukraine to continue his manosphere enterprise for helping men is his justification, even though I have my own biased opinion about it. He went there. That's why he went to Ukraine, right? To do some kind of compound to help men, be more masculine and stuff, and start like a whole it was like in my opinion, it was an anti-women trade, but I mean, his opinion was that he was helping young men. The war broke out. I mean, he went there in 2017 is what I'm reading, right? I mean, he's been there for a while, and he lived there ever since the invasion. Then he got caught in the invasion on the wrong side of his political spectrum, and he refused to, adhere to the laws around him. He was incarcerated once when he openly criticized the government, and but I don't think it was just about criticism. I have a direct quote from the judge. It's translated, but whatever. But I think it's unfortunate that he died.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's okay.
Read the quote.
Well, I can get that to the end. Let me just summarize my opinion first, real quick. I don't think it's okay that he died. I don't think it's fine, but I think you're attributing malice where accident could easily just be
okay. So all right. So I'm attributing malice to the Ukrainian government and to the United States
and to Biden. Yeah.
Okay.
Because once you started with Ukraine, you kept snowballing it.
Okay.
Right? You just kept going.
Fair enough. So in your interpretation, have you heard anything that Joe Biden or his administration or anyone reached out to Ukraine to free Lira?
I read a quote recently from someone in the Biden administration talking about it. 1 second. I was going through this because I was surprised that he died. I don't think it's okay. That's why I hopped in your chat, because you were talking about it. I saw a little YouTube article. Now I see articles coming out. I don't really watch Tucker, so I don't care. But yeah, well, that was kind of sad.
Okay, so far you have a quote you're going to provide me from the Ukrainian judge and a quote from someone in the Biden administration.
Sure. So my quote from the judge. Right. Let's see. Let me pull it up. Thus, Lira Lopez Gonzalo Angel Quintino, which is his full name, is charged with the production and distribution of materials containing the justification, recognition of legitimacy, denial of the armed aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine, which began in 2014, including the presenting of armed aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine as an internal civil conflict, justification, recognition of the lawful temporary occupation of part of the Ukraine territory, as well as justification and recognition of the lawful temporary occupation of the part of the Ukrainian territory, glorification of people who carried out the armed aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine, which began in 2014, committed repeatedly. And then they cite the article, a crime provided for, part 3 of article, which I cited 436-2 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine.
That's it? That's the quote you wanted to read?
I imagine that's the citing judge. I imagine
right.
That's
I'll translate.
A verdict, that's
I'll translate that. You tell me if you think this is a fair interpretation. They're saying we think we've been at war with Russia since 2014, and this guy was giving justification and rationale for Russia's invasion.
True, but the important part that I would like to point out is not just the recognition, but is presenting armed aggression of the Russian Federation. From my understanding, there's a couple times, I might be wrong with this, he was recording a couple times of Ukrainian soldier movements and stuff. And that's why he was
that does
originally-
not seem to be what that judge said at all. You show me
Well,
the
no,
part.
I think-
Real quick. You read the quote from the judge. You say it's important to hear from the judge that did the sentencing. So show me in that quote where it mentions him saying was aiding the Russian government by showing the troop movements of Ukraine. Where are you reading into that from the judge's words here?
Okay, so I'm kind of putting this together just now, so
Okay.
just breathe, so relax.
No, don't
Two.
tell me to relax. I'll kick you right off the show. I don't think. I think I've
absolutely
been
will.
eminently fair
you
with
are
you since
increasing the
I
temperature.
think you. No, I
and
think
I'm trying
since
to reduce
you,
the temperature.
again, I think since you've came on and I've spoken to you, I've been more even killed than before you came on. Right.
You
so
called me
I'm
stupid
asking.
was the first
Right
thing you said. I was an idiot.
Right.
I don't think you're very charitable.
Did I
right?
call
So
you
that's
an
part
idiot
of the problem.
before you came on the call or during the call?
No, you said thank you when you thought I was a friend, but then the moment you realized I wasn't, you started calling me an idiot.
Did I say you were an idiot before you came on the call or once you came on the call?
Before I came on the call.
Right, which is exactly what I just said. So since you've been on the call, I think I've been entirely reasonable. Let you say your piece.
It's
You
all
don't-
me though, right?
Listen, I'm just going to kick you off.
And
If
after.
you want to have a discussion, we can have a discussion. If you want to complain,
What do you want to talk about, Rob?
what I'm asking you, I just asked you a question. You said that from this judge ruling, you think he's saying more than what I interpreted, and then you started to
No,
say
that's not my argument.
Oh, that is what you said. You said
your interpretation
I
of
said
it.
I gave my interpretation. Said they basically said we've been at war with Russia since 2014, and you've been glorifying or giving the reasons or sympathizing with Russia and their invasion. And you said, well, I think it's more than that. For example, in this part where he says, and you started to say something, and then you said, for example, I've heard that he was showing Ukrainian troop movements and things like that. And I said,
don't have
okay.
evidence of
I
that, but
said,
that was
I
something I
said,
heard. I
okay.
haven't
But let me
haven't
finish.
verified
I
that
said,
information.
okay. Can you show me in this judge's comments where you think they're speaking to him showing Ukrainian troop movements? And you said, well, can you calm down and lower the temperature or something to that effect? I'm saying, no, I'm not going to calm down and lower the temperature. I think I'm being quite reasonable. Now I would like you to answer the question. Can you show me in that judge's statement where you're connecting any of the things he said there beyond what I said to he was showing Ukrainian troop movements?
See, I am not making additional assumptions, not like you. I am reading what he says, and I am assuming what he says is accurate.
Okay, so you're taking back the part about Ukrainian troop movements. You acknowledge at least in
I
this.
don't have evidence of that yet, but I would like to get that, but you're interrupting me.
Let me finish. So you're acknowledging, at least in this sentencing judge's statement, he is saying nothing about the crime of showing Ukrainian troop movements.
Well, because it's translated in English, I don't know is the answer.
So now
I would like to verify.
Okay, so
but yeah,
so
but
now
from
just
our
real
English
quick,
interpretation,
right?
yeah,
Okay,
sure. Let's
so
say
just
that
to be,
he's just been locked up for just what he said.
Just to be clear, the statements that you said were important to look at from the judge, that when they were saying things that you thought were beyond the scope of what I was saying, that you thought were very important. Now you've already immediately backtracked to, but I don't know if we could trust the translation.
No, I don't. I do not assume I am an expert. I assume that I am a layman. Thus, I look for additional information to verify what I think I know. I don't know it. I don't claim to be an expert because I don't claim to be an expert on these issues. I am helping you reason through them.
No, you're not helping me reason through. You're trying to argue your side of the position, which is fine.
No,
I don't mind that. That's not true.
Rob, I watched you a lot.
That is not true. That is not true. What you're doing is arguing your side of this. If your argument was, please, please, when you're speaking, I let you speak. Right?
Okay,
That's what you're doing. You're arguing a side, which is absolutely fine. That's the norm of people that want to call in and stuff. I don't have a problem with that.
You're stupid for that.
If you interrupt me one more time, I'm just going to kick you off. I don't give a shit. You can go talk to Drone Tech on his channel. It seems that you're enthusiastic to do so.
No, he doesn't like me either. But
well, I wonder why. Now, I'll finish my point. So what you're doing is arguing your side. And initially you came in, and I don't mind that, right? But the problem is you're getting ahead of your skis. So I'd already said, if you had listened to when I was lining this up, that when I was asking people what was he charged with, they basically sent me links that showed the criminal code and said he was basically charged with glorifying Russia and insulting Ukrainian Ukrainian troops. And I was like, that's ridiculous. We would say that you have a First Amendment right to do that, da-da-da. Then I said, there are also people that said that he was showing Ukrainian troop movements and things like that. But I don't see any of the indicting documents that suggest that. Additionally, it doesn't seem like he was crawling through the woods in a ghillie suit trying to go to the front lines. It looks what he was accused of doing was like being in his hotel room and like having the camera on and go, look, they're outside here in the city we're in, which wasn't exactly clandestine information. Nonetheless, I still didn't see any indicting documents. Okay, yeah. I didn't see any indicting documents whatsoever that suggested the reason he was locked up was showing Russian troop movements, which is why I was interested when you said, actually, what this judge said, I think that it has something to do with troop movements. I was interested to hear that. And unfortunately, you fell short by saying, oh, actually, it doesn't appear the judge said that, but it might just be because of the translation.
I don't know yet. I think it could be true. It could be out there.
That's
I just
true.
don't know yet.
Oh, no. That's absolutely true. He could have also been arrested for being a James Bond-esque spy. It could be true.
And a flying saucer could have killed him instead, right? But like, come on, dude. I'm working with some reasonable facts.
No. You're not working with reasonable facts. What you're doing is you're arguing your side of the position. You don't have any evidence for the claim that you made. And now
more evidence than you have.
Okay, show me the evidence that the judge locked him. You've presented some sort of evidence that showed that he was indicted, and the judge mentioned one of the reasons was showing Ukrainian troop movements. Can you show me the evidence provided that you've shown of that?
I'm going to link you his court documents from Ukraine. These are transcribed.
Cool. Okay, they're linked. Now show me the part where it specifically says that he was indicted for showing troop movements.
I don't know that. You are now again assuming more than I actually said. Go back and listen to what I said. You are not repeating what I said.
What did you say?
You're actually expounding more. You're snowballing down a mountain again. It's why you start talking about Biden. When I lost my shit when you start talking about Biden, as if Biden murdered him in his fucking cell.
That's not what's going on. I want you to explain to me, was your first comment the gist of your first comment?
My first comment was that
once
the judge
you're interrupting
me.
Right, okay, fine. Go ahead and say what you're saying. That's what I was going to say your first comment was.
My first comment was that a judge has already made a ruling on this situation. And we could read that ruling. And in that ruling, that judge just pretty much confirmed what code he's being convicted under. Just so we're aware that this is not just, it wasn't some random, pull him out of the street, a lawless act. A judge, we may not agree with that system, but we can audit it, right? We as humans can find the documentation and audit it and make a fair assessment. And all I'm saying is that the Ukrainian judge in this case says that that was my first argument. And then I added an addendum, a point that I think, and I haven't gone through it because you've been interrupting me, I think that one of the evidences for his arrest was when he was recording. I don't think he was actually recording troop movements. I think he was just in his, like you said, he was in his apartment. But then they came over, they got his equipment, and that was kind of how it snowballed. And that's how he got arrested in the first place. But like I said, I haven't gotten that part yet. All I've gotten is through the preface.
Okay,
right?
so
you're assuming he was murdered.
I've given you enough time, so now I'll respond to that. So what you can see is he initially wants to call in and say, like, well, it's not as if I'm making it seem that he was just arrested for criticizing them. Actually, there's a criminal code that we could look at. And what I said was, even though I didn't see the exact criminal code of Ukraine previously, when I had asked people, they basically showed me that the gist of the, like, for example, if I said someone was locked up overnight for disorderly conduct, I might not necessarily read exactly what the code of disorderly conduct is, but we all have a general idea of what that is. So going into this, that's what I was working with. I didn't have. Please. I sat there patiently while you rambled on.
I am agreeing with you. Continue.
Right. So I don't need your permission to continue. What I need you to do is to be quiet while I'm talking, as I was while you were talking. Now, so I don't have a problem with him saying, well, here's what the statute says. The statute basically says, in his reading of it from this judge's words, basically in line exactly with what I was saying, that he was making fun of Ukrainian troops, or he was glorifying Russian troops and saying that they weren't the bad guys or something like that, making excuses for them, which is what I said. So all the criticism, please, next time you're out, so all the criticisms that I made about Ukraine going into this before he called in would still stand. Nothing he says is detrimental. He then expounds when I say, So the judge basically said, he then tries to say, well, wait a minute, when the judge, and we can go back to the tape afterwards so you can see how the person that's going on here isn't just dumb, he's also a liar, because what he tried to do was, he was trying to say, but wait a minute, when the judge says this, I think he's also mentioning this Ukrainian troop, or alluding to these Ukrainian, that's what he was trying to do. He tried to parse out some of the words, and then when I said, can you show me that part? Can you show me where the judge said that? Because he's right to say, well, we should look exactly what he's indicted with, because oftentimes what happens is, there's a laundry list of bad things that we could accuse people of doing, but we're talking specifically why this person was detained, and we have from the judge specifically why they were detained. Nowhere does it suggest it had anything to do with showing troop movements. Those troop movements, as this gentleman on the phone's already admitted, were benign anyways. It was shit like out his hotel window. But nonetheless, we have only anecdotal claims of that, and we certainly don't have any documentation showing that's why he was arrested. So when he says, well, not yet, but those could exist, that's true. But what we're operating on is the assumption of the documents that we've been able to read. And for someone that claims, I'm not partisan, I'm not trying to argue, I'm just trying to get to the root of all the facts, it would be equally likely that he could have been locked up for rape, or for money laundering, or for murder, or for not paying child support, or for any other number of crimes that theoretically there could be other documents out there suggesting. However, the document that's being shown of why he was arrested in the first place doesn't speak to any of that. And it is not charitable or good faith to say, but on this one, on the idea that he could have been showing Ukrainian troop movements, for all we know, some other judge out there, or perhaps this judge elsewhere, said that that was one of the reasons he was arrested. So the question I will ask is as follows. Do you think, based on what you've read from the judge ruling that you've already read, that even had he not shown Ukrainian troop movements, that they still had enough, based on their interpretation of their law, to lock him up?
I want to rephrase your question so I understand. You want me to ask that they think that they were justified. They, as an Ukrainian government, right, were justified in their arrest. Is that what
even based on their interpretation of the law that you've read, that they charged Gonzalo Lira for, do you think even without showing Ukrainian troop movements that they had enough to lock him up?
It appears so. I'm continuing to read the document that I linked you.
So then all of my criticisms would still stand. Locking someone up for the crime of insulting Ukraine and saying Russia's not the bad guys is absurd.
I haven't gone through all this. I can't even read this because you're like shouting at me. What do you want? What are you asking, Rob? Like, let's be specific.
I just asked you specific. I thought I was very specific.
You're not. Go ahead. What do you ask? I put the document down.
You want me?
Go ahead.
You want me to ask the question? You want me to ask you the question again?
I'm trying to read
based on what he was charged with what you read from the judge's decision. Did they have enough on their law to arrest him, even if he never filmed Ukrainian troop movements? That's a very specific question. So I don't know how you're saying that it's vague or you don't understand the question I'm asking.
Because I'm trying to read the document to answer your question while you're talking.
But you're the one who claimed to have knowledge of the document that led to your responses and your call-in and your responses.
Yeah, because I also said I was a layman, and we were just talking about this, because I had just found out that he died like an hour ago, right? And I'm trying to go through the document with you right now, right?
Okay, you went through the document. Okay, are you still going
You're interrupting me. You're interrupting. I waited for you, and you're interrupting me again. You're interrupting me again.
It's my show.
You're breaking your own rules. You're breaking your own rules because this is your own private house,
right.
And you think you can do whatever you want.
That is true. That is true. But nonetheless, I've let you talk at great length. I don't think that I've been.
No, you haven't. You can pretend like that's true, but it's not. I'll listen to you again. Go ahead. What do you want to say? What more do you want to talk about?
I just outlined. My entire position that you seem to be disagreeing with was me saying that it was heinous and against the spirit of the First Amendment that he be locked up basically for the crime of criticizing Zelensky and giving sort of glorification or defense to Russia. And I said that was nonsensical. Wait. I thought you wanted to hear what I was saying. Right?
Because I'm going to respond.
Then I also said, so I said it was heinous of Ukraine that they are our ally and that they are basically relying on us for their country to exist at this point. And so they should have deported, at best, Lira if they didn't like him. And the Biden administration should have been constantly reaching out, trying to get back an American citizen, something they did when it was our enemy, Russia, that had an American citizen, which actually led to us literally releasing dangerous criminals in order to get them out. Why didn't the Biden administration then reach out to Ukraine?
That was your second question that I didn't get to. Let me find that one. Go ahead.
Okay.
I just read something about that. There was some official that talked about it.
Okay, cool. Let's see it. Let's see what that official said. Talk about Kirby?
Maybe. I am not Destiny, right? I'm not doing 10 things at once. I just sat down. I just got from my kids. I'm like you. Relax. Let me go and find it.
If you tell me to relax one more time, you're off the show. That's the last warning.
You keep threatening. You keep threatening it, but I'm the one trying to de-escalate, and you're the one trying to escalate. Cool?
If you tell me to relax one more time, you're off the show.
Cool, man. I heard you the first time.
Cool. What are you looking?
My question to you is, why do you keep escalating it, though? Why do you keep...
I'm talking in exactly the manner...
Why did you rant from... like the criminal justice system, then it's Zelensky, then Biden obviously is in on it, and then they all like you went from like the prison, the guy like he could have died because he talked to the wrong person in prison and got punched out. I don't know yet. I don't fucking know yet. Not really, right? He could have died for all kinds of reasons in prison. But you've already tied him to Joe Biden's malicious intent, right? In this short conversation we've had.
Yes, I have. I provided evidence as to why.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
Opinions. Yep. You provided opinions as to why. Not evidence.
I've provided the past behavior of the Biden administration and their standard
behavior. Your characterization of this behavior is
okay. Fair enough, right? So then tell me what their standard they set forth with Brittany Griner was. Go ahead, in your words.
Are you talking about Brittany Griner who was in Russia?
Yes. Tell me what the standard. What was the Biden administration policy? What was their rationale for the actions they took?
I don't have off the top of my head. Why don't you enlighten me?
Okay, their argument that they made was that we have to do what we can to bring American citizens home. And even if that means making concessions that we don't like, such as releasing an arms dealer that Russia really wanted back, it was worth it to bring her back because she was detained for a crime that we don't think is that serious, and she's American and should be brought back home.
Okay, pause. You don't know if Gonzalez wanted to actually come back to America. You don't, because he ran from America. You don't know that. Right?
Well, that's first off.
You assume that he had a nationality and he should go back to it.
So I just want to be clear. Part of your argument is this guy who apparently died in prison.
Part of my argument is you're making more assumptions.
Please.
Apparently, you interrupted me again.
Okay, this literally last chance. I'm not fucking around anymore. Right? So now what you're saying is this man who apparently died in prison, and we're being told it was of a respiratory illness, as he's sitting there, I'm sure his last 3-4 days weren't particularly great days. And you're like, well, but maybe he wanted to stay there. Maybe he didn't want to come back to the United States.
No, I mean, since 2017,
I'm finishing, right? So the idea that, well, maybe the Biden administration didn't reach out because we're not even sure that Lira wanted to come home. That's also against what Lira publicly said, because what they did was they put him on house arrest. And then he said, he put out a statement that said, this is probably the last statement you'll hear from me. I'm trying to flee out of the country of Ukraine. I no longer want to be here. And they're probably going to arrest me. And if they arrest me, you'll probably never hear from me again. And I'll probably die in a Ukrainian prison. Now your argument seems to be something such as this. Well, we don't know. We don't know if Lira wanted out of Ukraine. We don't know. Maybe he just said all of that. Maybe he wanted to die in Ukrainian prisons.
You want to try again? You want to try accurately describe my
No, I accurately described your position. You can tell me where you think I was inaccurate.
I'm the one who has the position. I'm telling you, you haven't.
Okay, then what's your position? You tell me what's inaccurate about it.
My position was you want him to be like you're assuming that Ukraine should have recognized that he is an American citizen and given him special treatment and sent him back to America rather than dying. Correct. You don't know that that's actually within his consent. You don't know that he wanted to go back to America. 1. 2, because he went to Poland, right? He went to the Polish border, right? 1, and Addendum 1, he hated America. Go through his works. He thinks America is a scum society, and that's why he left. Right? He hated America. Mm-hmm. He says that we're falling, mm-hmm. and that he thinks that we're a fallen nation and that we've lost our way, and that's why he left in the first place. And so you're saying that Ukraine should recognize that even though he willingly left out of the United States, they should just pick him up and throw him back and say it's safer for you there. That against his will, if even that is what you're saying.
I think that this is one of the dumbest, most bad faith, disingenuous arguments that I've ever heard.
Oh my gosh. I'm actually trying to...
We'll see you later. Goodbye.
I'm actually trying to
shut up. If you can't shut up, you're gone. Last chance. One of the worst arguments I've ever heard. Imagine languishing in a prison, dying, right? And you've already been caught trying to flee the country of Ukraine because you've literally put videos out about how the spokespeople from Ukraine, that trans man that was the spokesperson, put you on a list and you're afraid that they're going to kill you or imprison you for the rest of your life. And you've reached out to your family and said, I don't know if I'm going to make it. That's how desperate you are to get out of Ukraine. And now as you languish in a prison, and you're lying on a prison floor, right, and dying, that what's going on is, if the Ukrainian government would have came to you and said, hey, Gonzalo, we were going to contact the Biden administration, and they're going to take you back to America, and he would go, I know I'm dying, but no, not America. I do not consent. Don't send me. It is laughably stupid. Other points that make this laughably stupid. He could have came to America where he was in a prison, and if he hated America, this might blow your mind, he could have got on a plane and went to Poland or Hungary. I think that any country that would have accepted him getting out of the prison that he was dying in would have been acceptable to him. And for you to try to make the claim, well, what could Ukraine do? It's not just because he was an American citizen. They had no obligation whatsoever, even though they're completely reliant at this point on American money, no obligation whatsoever to reach out to America or try to send this American citizen back. And you haven't got to the point where you've argued why the Biden administration, who was sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, didn't say, hey, you're not going to get that next check until you send this American back. Why they never bothered to say that. When they were willing to give, and I'm quoting now, the merchant of death to get Brittany Griner from our enemy, why wouldn't they look at our ally that's dependent on us and say, we're not going to send that next check unless you send that American back? When clearly it's the policy of the Biden administration to bring Americans that are detained for crimes we don't think are that serious, such as marijuana charges or exercising your right to free speech. But for some reason with Gonzalo Lira, they decided not to do that. Okay, you're out?
I'm out.
Well, you're not responding.
I was told by you that if I interrupted you again, you'd kick me because you're so insensitive by me trying to clarify with you.
When there's a pause, that's usually the communication cue for the other person gets to speak up.
Oh, okay. Well, is there anything else you want to help me about human interaction? How about being more charitable? Can you teach me about that one?
No, I can't. You're a shitbag lefty. We're talking about a guy who just died in prison, in a Ukrainian prison, for exercising his First Amendment right. You want to make his First Amendment right.
For exercising his complicit to his death.
For exercising his First Amendment right.
That's how political you want to make his death.
We'll see him.
You want to make his death that political. That's sad.
There you have it. You can grab a glass or drink of water. I'll be right back. That was Ethan on YouTube. I don't know what his last name was. He went by Atlas. What more is there to say? Yes, I guess I get a little heated when I hear people making excuses for the murder of an American citizen for exercising his First Amendment right. I also feel completely justified in saying the Biden administration did more to bring home Brittany Griner from an enemy country than just picking up the phone for a country totally dependent on us and saying, hey, dude, you got to send this guy back. There is no way that Zelensky and his administration would not have returned Gonzalo Lira home if the Biden administration wanted it, seeing as how they're almost completely reliant on the Biden administration for the existence of their country. Right. Yeah, Caligula gets it. Brittany Griner. Can you imagine that? Brittany Griner called America a terrible racist place. So imagine people like, Mr. Biden, have you reached out to Brittany Griner to try to bring her back to America? And he said, oh, we don't even know if she wants to come back. She said America's racist, so no, we're not going to make the effort. She's probably happier in a Russian prison. The point is, the Biden administration did not want Gonzalo. It would have cost them nothing to ask for the return of Lira, but they chose not to. Why? Because Lira is making the exact same criticisms of the official Ukrainian policy that the Biden administration would like to stop back home. Let's see. That's the truth of it. So again, and I'm not Destiny, blah, blah, blah. You notice, by the way, you can always tell the Destiny fans, right? Destiny kept saying the other day, you have no evidence, you have no evidence. No, that's evidence, right? Evidence of the United States, the Biden administration's policy on bringing Americans back home and the lengths they're willing to do so, particularly for crimes that we don't consider that serious. We see what their approach was with Brittany Griner, someone that would have been probably a Democrat, and then we see what their approach is with Gonzalo Lira, with an ally that they wouldn't have had to give up a merchant of death. And yeah, Crisco, and that's the absurdity. Well, we're not even sure that he wanted to come back to America. Those sorts of stupid arguments are just show, I mean, the insane levels of bad faith. I mean, I could make his argument better. I would never in a million years try to die on the hill of maybe he didn't want to leave that Ukrainian prison for America. That is one of the dumbest. He died. He died. Well, maybe he'd have rather died than come back to America. And it's not as if he came back to America. Oh, well, he didn't want to come back to America because he's facing prison time here. He literally could have came to America, got medical attention, and got right back on a plane to go to anywhere in the world he wanted. Sans Ukraine, I guess. Oh yeah, when Khashoggi died, they were very upset, right? And he wasn't a U.S. citizen. That's exactly right. No, I accurately restated your problem. The problem that so many of the people that I talk to on the left is that they'll make a foolish statement and then when shown to be foolish say, no, that's not exactly what I'm saying. That's not exactly what I'm saying. So if I could go further with what you were trying to say, but by the way, are you trying to evade? I didn't ban you on YouTube, but if you're going under other names now to try to evade a ban, that's probably a reason to be banned. Though I hope that my mods don't ban you. Now this is what you're going to try to say. No, actually what I was saying was this. Maybe, of course he wanted out of the prison. Of course he wanted out of the prison, but perhaps the United States wasn't his preferred destination. And so the idea that Ukraine should have reached out to the Biden administration where he was an American citizen, they didn't know if that was within his consent of with what he wanted, which is still a ridiculous, stupid argument because it denies the fact that, one, he would have wanted to be out of prison no matter what country he went to, and second, if he came to the United States, it wasn't as if he was going to be detained. If, for example, you said his real objective was to get to Poland, do you think it was easier to get to Poland by dying on the floor of a Ukrainian prison and hoping to have some sort of jailbreak there, or getting an airplane ride to the United States and then taking another ride back to Poland? It is a stupid point. It is dumb beyond all good faith contemplation. And so you just say, no, you didn't accurately state my position. Of course I did. Now I'm going to go to the rest and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the January 13th insurrection. You couldn't stop interrupting. That's why you got kicked. One other thing I'll say about Ukraine, briefly, before we move on. We know about Gonzalo Lira because he was a presence online and he was an American. How many Ukrainians that criticized Zelensky or said that they preferred Russia do you think have been locked up? I mean, they stopped the elections and... Great, right? That's the democracy that we're defending. Great place. It's great, right? If the Biden administration was willing to go so far to bring Brittany Griner back that they were willing to release a dangerous arms dealer, why couldn't they pick up the phone and just make an ask of Zelensky? And why isn't the Biden administration being forced to answer for this? There's only two possible explanations. That the Biden administration never asked to bring this American citizen home. Or second, that they did ask and Zelensky's administration said no. Either way, if it was the Biden administration never reached out, how is that excusable? They let an American die for exercising what we would consider his First Amendment right. If they did reach out and Zelensky's administration said no, why should they ever receive another dime? Now, January 13th, insurrection. Last night, there was... I don't even know what to say. I couldn't sleep all night. I'm still shaking. I'm a little on edge. Here. There was an insurrection. Worse than Pearl Harbor and 9/11 last night. I don't know if you saw it. Last night, my 3-year-old son, as I was watching the video of the January 13th insurrection, he looked up to me and he said, "Daddy, is our democracy safe from Democrat insurrection?" All right. I said, "I don't know, son. I don't know. I just don't know." So a bunch of left-wingers decided that they were going to plow through the gates outside the White House, making it through one platform of gates and fencing into a second where they used bludgeoning and spear-like weapons and projectiles to attack law enforcement in their attempt to enter the United States White House, forcing the evacuation of personnel at the White House. That is an insurrection. This comes at a time where reporting is suggesting that hundreds of members of the executive branch and congressional aides are considering walking off the job in a few days here in support for Palestine and Hamas. The same thing the insurrectionists were supporting. Hank Johnson also seemed to suggest that the bombing in Yemen was against the values of the United States. That sounds like he engaged with an insurrection. When will subpoenas be given to Hank Johnson? When will subpoenas be given to the members of Congress or their congressional aides or the executive branch and their aides that are considering walking? At this point, we need to find out, was this a pre-planned insurrection? They had bludgeoning weapons. They had piercing weapons. They had projectiles. They were shoving on a fence. I was told that's a terrorism enhancer, is what I was told. In the sentencing of Biggs, was it Biggs? Or Riggs? That's what I was told. That's what the judge said there. The fact that this one Proud Boy was shoving on a gate, that proves terrorism. It proves intent. But it's different. You know how many people were arrested last night? Now, one of the things, when I debated Pisco on the Jamal Bowman topic, I said, we went through this and he feigns ignorance. Why would this be? I told him, how was I able to accurately predict almost to the T what would happen with the Bowman situation? Almost exactly I was able to predict. I said what they'll do is they'll ultimately charge him from some low-level misdemeanor and give him a slap on the wrist like, you're not allowed to pull fire alarms. That's what they'll get him for. What they won't get him for is the felony of obstructing an official proceeding. And the reason they won't give him that charge is because they've charged so many January 6 people with that charge. Because when you bring up other instances where there's been violence or when there's been trespassing on governmental buildings, one of the things that you're always told is, but what was the official proceeding that they were interrupting? And Pisco said, no. So, go to Twitter today and look at all the lefties that I'm arguing with about the January 13th insurrection. And what's one of the first things they all say? What was the official proceeding that they were trying to interrupt last night? What was the proceeding? Do you see? Pisco schooled me. Yeah, he did great. He did fantastic. Only he didn't. He did terribly. Here, let's watch. It'll probably crash my computer. Let's watch a little of that Pisco debate, right? While we're on the Bowman topic. Let's see how great Pisco did. Let me that. Wrong channel here. Oh, wait. I didn't put it up on YouTube yet? Pisco's very good at obfuscating, right? No, don't kick him. Leave him stay. I'll just ignore him if I don't. You can put him on ignore. He's very good at obfuscating. That's what he does. I watched it. Let's go over it. Okay, we'll watch this section of it. We'll go over it, right? So he'll drag it on and on and on. Pisco will, in an attempt to run out the clock. That's all he does. He doesn't make any affirmative arguments. Here's 2 minutes on why I wanted to do the Jamal Bowman. I'll ask you again since you're trying to weasel out of it. I said, do you still defend your initial position? I don't give a shit about the degrees of confidence. Please, let me finish. Your initial position was that it's more likely. And you said, well, degrees of confidence and blah, 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 blah. Whatever. At the end of the day, brass tacks, you think it's more likely he pulled that alarm to get out of the building than he did to cause a delay. And I said, now that we see the video, do you stand by that? You said yes.
I do, yes.
Yeah, that's how everyone knows that you're a bad faith piece of shit.
Now, let's examine the bad faith aspect to it.
Hang on, Rob, you got to let him respond to what you said. You just said a lot. Go ahead, Pisco.
Why would I be bad faith in this? Let's really think about it. Why would I do this? You might not believe me, but my credibility and what I say matters a lot to me. You know, I went when Biden, the investigation came out that there was revelations of classified documents. I went on Destiny's Stream to say, hey, do not prejudge this investigation. I think there should be a special counsel. I went out and said that. To me, and you might not believe it, but my credibility and my opinions matter to me. Now, why would I risk it all for Bowman? Why not just throw him under the bus if it's so obvious a case? And if it's so obvious a case, why is the Republican Ethics Committee not looking into him?
Okay, I've already answered the part why you would do this, right? I will say this. It would be like if there's video of you cheating on your wife and everyone could see it and it's indisputably accurate video and your argument is, but why would I cheat on my wife? I love her. Why would I sleep with my wife's hot? Why would it? And you'd be like, but Pisco, here's the video evidence of you doing it. And you'd be like, well, ignore that. Why would I do it?
No,
the video evidence is there for everyone to see, Pisco. And just in case you're wondering, here's the video evidence of Bowman. Remember, his stake is Bowman. It was more likely Bowman pulled the alarm and was trying to get out of the door. Let's watch that. Here we go. Pisco's, after seeing this evidence, remember, his take is, the most likely scenario is that Jamal Bowman pulled the fire alarm and then tried to get out the door. That's the most likely. Ready? Here's the evidence. There's Bowman. Pulls down sign, pulls fire alarm, immediately walks away, doesn't try to get out the door. Let's watch again. First, he walks up. Notice he does not. Watch what he does. He doesn't even push the door handle. Watch what he does. He pushes the bottom, like where the... It looks like there's one of those like door stops on the bottom. He touches it with his foot. Then he immediately, at the same time with his hands, is removing the sign. 1 sign, 2 sign. Pulls the alarm. Now, at this point, he doesn't pull the alarm and then seem startled. He doesn't seem that. He doesn't pull the alarm and then go back to try to push the door open because he claims he thought that pulling the alarm would unlock the door. Does not try to open it. And yet, Pisco says, still, he finds that to be the most likely scenario. Still, even after the video evidence. And Pisco's response to me is, but why would I be bad faith? Well, he's right. Everything he says it. Why would he die on this hill of Bowman? Right. It's the same as like, why would he die on the hill? Remember when we debated about sending illegals to Martha's Vineyard and they could only support like 50 illegals for 48 hours? Remember that? And he said, perhaps the people of Martha's Vineyard just don't have the resources. That's what he said. One of the wealthiest communities in this country. They didn't have the resources. I said, I live in a dirt rural Pennsylvania town. We could take care. If a bus full of football players got stranded in our little town, we'd take care of them for a week easily. But not Martha's Vineyard. They couldn't handle it. So he says, why would I be bad faith? Why do I have to answer why you would be bad faith? You clearly are being bad faith. Or the other option is, you are so stupid that you could literally see video evidence that completely disputes, beyond any shadow of a doubt, your claim, and you refuse to accept it. Right. All right, Ethan. Thanks so much. So we have the January insurrection. Here's other arguments that I heard from debating January 6th. The fact that Trump wasn't on the phone when the Capitol was being attacked is dereliction of duty and shows that it's further evidence he engaged in an insurrection. Where was Biden last night? Was he on the phone? Well, if Biden didn't try to call in the National Guard last night, then I guess that's dereliction of duty, right? Why was it, in the pictures you see, why did they have these big gates last night? I don't understand. What was that about? Did you see that? My computer's probably going to crash here. I can hear it overheating, but we'll try our best. What's up with these big gates? That's not how you stop an insurrection. Little bike racks are. Right? That's how you stop little bike racks. How come they weren't shooting rubber bullets and tear gas at them? I don't understand that. Isn't that how you handle an insurrection? You shoot rubber bullets and tear gas into the people that are pushing on the gate, right? That's what you do, right? When people started pushing on the gates, why didn't they leave them through? That's how you handle it. That's how January 6th was handled, right? How come after this, here's a question, so we know that White House people had to evacuate. How come I didn't hear the media making fun of them today, calling them bunker boys and girls, or bunker bitches? That's what they did May 30th, 2020, when Trump had to evacuate the White House, when violent lefties were attacking, right? They made fun of Trump. They called him bunker boy. So that's weird. I haven't heard the media really making fun of the people that had to evacuate the White House last night. Isn't that strange? How come police didn't arrest anyone? They forced an evacuation. No one arrested? They trespassed on White House grounds. No arrests? They clashed with police. No arrests? But that's an insurrection. Shouldn't there be an immediate investigation? Don't we need to subpoena all of the Democrats in Congress that seem to agree with their cause? Oh boy, you're good at the fake outrage thing. If you think I'm good at it, you should check out the FBI and the Democrats. Go check Adam Kissinger out crying in the January 6th committee. Now, what I love about this is, what about all the weapons they had? They had piercing weapons. They had bludgeoning weapons. Why isn't the left freaked out about it? They were armed. Armed insurrectionists forced the evacuation of the White House last night. Armed. They were armed. Why doesn't the left care? Now, the best part about this is how they say exactly, they out themselves. They immediately out themselves. Oh my God, this wasn't a big deal. It was a couple of people. It's not like they were going to do anything. They didn't have guns and shit. It wasn't like they were going to overthrow the country. Tell me more. Tell me more. Go ahead. Keep going. There we go. There we go. There it is. And that's the real... Para gets it. That's the real claim. Just say whataboutism. These are people that are more than happy with the double standard of law enforcement in this country. They are absolutely thrilled with it, right? So when you say, well, the standard has been set, they say, no, you can't. Every two situations are unique. So you just have to... No one was arrested last night. That proves that nothing was wrong there. And you can't compare it to other incidents, or that's whataboutism. We just have to say, well, they looked at it last night and said there was no problem with it, so that's that. If the exact same rally happens tomorrow, and it's right-wingers, and the FBI arrests 150 people, he would say, you can't compare it to last night. You can't compare it. That's whataboutism. You can't talk about that. The point is, when you say they had weapons, they were armed, what'll happen is, sacks of shit lefties will say, what, flags? You're calling that a piercing weapon? A bludgeoning weapon? That's a fucking joke. You're right, it is a joke. And that's what they said about January 6th. They had zip ties. Some of them had flags. There was a fake gallows set up that a normal human being couldn't fit in. All evidence of an insurrection. Okay, let's apply that standard equally. Clearly that was an armed mob last night. Nah, it's different. They weren't armed with actual weapons. Now, on May 30th, 2020, they were armed with lethal weapons. Molotov cocktails. Thank God we did not see that last night. Shook offense, weren't we told that that's a terrorism enhancer? Thank you, David, for the super chat. It says the left is just pure gaslighting at this point. Absolutely. That's exactly what's going on. Here he says, Parrot says, you're actually dead wrong, to be clear. I won't defend last night. I don't have the information to conclude about last night. They breached government property and threatened to upend our democratic process. I'll bite the bullet. If they didn't, these are not the same. What do you mean if they didn't? They were trespassing. They made it through one set of gates outside the White House. We're trying to get into another set. It caused the evacuation. Now, notice how I said in my argument with Pisco with Jamal Bowman, right? I said that remember I said with Bowman, the fact that he pulled the alarm to cause a delay, which would have violated the law. What was the actual... delaying of an official proceeding. I said that's the excuse that the left will go back and back. Right? He says they threatened to upend our democratic process. What does that mean? What does threaten to upend the democratic process? Remember, Trump or no one else has been charged with committing an insurrection. Right? The crimes that they've been charged with have to do with things that basically, if you read the language, are, for example, the definitions of insurrection that Pisco was trying to use the other night. It says using violence or threat of violence by a group of people to try to change a law. Okay, well, the democratic process that they were trying to change is the president's legitimate authority under the War Powers Act to bomb basically terrorists that were attacking ships in Yemen. That was the democratic process. They were going against the wishes of our... Unless you want to argue that Joe Biden acted outside of constitutional bounds, I'm all for hearing it. lots of people charged for things they don't do. The legal system's wild like that. Right, on one hand, we have zero charge. On the other hand, we have the largest FBI task force in history. On one hand, we don't have censorship of political opinions of the group that attacked. On the other hand, we have almost total censorship of the opinions of that group that were challenging the election. They did an indirect. What do I tell you? To those that follow me a lot, what do I tell you almost always will happen? Right? Eventually, if you're talking probably 50 to 70% of the left-wingers that I talk to, even just in chat, eventually they'll say, fine, I don't care, arrest them. Isn't that what they say? Remember when I was talking on the panel with Destiny and Brianna Wu about Hillary Clinton destroying subpoenaed evidence, her team's destroying, and Brianna Wu goes, that's fine, then arrest her. That's what they always default to, right? Now, what that shows you is either their bad faith or that they're operating only on a orange man bad level. And so the argument that they're making is basically this. I don't really care about the process. I'll just say, fine, whatever, just arrest people, because they're trying to get out of the argument because they can't defend the double standard. So then my question to you, Para, is, if you followed me for a while, you'll notice that I'm not really that concerned about Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Hunter Biden or Chuck Schumer or George Bush or Bill Clinton. Because I know that presidents and politicians come and go. I'm more concerned about the most powerful law enforcement agency in the history of the world operating in a two-tier system, putting their thumb on the scale of how our country is ran. They're unelected bureaucrats, and they're working in tandem with other unelected officials in many other institutions. That's my primary concern. So you saying, that's fine, arrest those people last night, great, I agree with you. Now let's get to the point of why the FBI didn't. Thank you, Para. I appreciate it. Let's look into it. Okay, go ahead. Look into the FBI. What'd you come up with? This is what will happen. The FBI and the DOJ will look into it and say, we didn't do anything wrong. Case closed. That's right. Same as me. Exactly right. Yes. And even when we have officials that have more authority than me and you, like Durham, or the Inspector General Horowitz, that shows over and over how the FBI violated their own policies or illegally spied on people in Trump's team or did a bunch of other things that were against official FBI procedure. What's the net result? Is there ever any punishment dealt out? No. The FBI goes, we'll look into that. We'll change things. And that's it. Right, so what's the prescription? Well, first off, the prescription is to call out, to wake enough people up to this obvious double standard, as opposed to saying, like you said when you came in here, well, why, the different situations, blah, 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 blah. Be the change I want to see take over the FBI. Sure. First act, disbanding the FBI. That's why I'm voting for Vivek. Vivek. I'm pronouncing his name wrong. That's the truth. This is what, I'm not saying Para here, right? But this is what so many people do. They don't understand, right? All these people that are watching me last night, tweeting out, oh my God, this is insurrection. They're like, this is a joke. This is an insurrection. How could only this handful of people, these thousands of people, how could they overturn the government? They don't have guns and shit like that. What are you talking about? This is silly. Right. Exactly. Exactly. They don't get it. For example, what if I said May 30th and last night's was the exact same thing? The reason we never called it an insurrection or it didn't seem like a big deal was because they didn't make it into the Capitol. That's how I started off my debate with Pisco. I said that in my opening statement. I said that's the big difference. So the question is, how did the people January 6th make it into the Capitol? Well, we have the guy that was tasked with security there and says it was basically done different than any other time we have any rally that's occurring in D.C., even ones where we don't expect violence. There was intelligence that there was about to be an insurrection, but it wasn't shared. I repeatedly requested the National Guard from people that are now claiming that they knew it was a big deal, but for some reason they weren't giving me authority to have the Guard. Police were opening doors and allowing people in. What's going on? Why the difference that one time? Well, because then we could look at that situation and go, see? And what happens is when you talk to people like Pisco and others, they'll say, well, it doesn't matter that there was no chance for the insurrection to succeed. which clearly there wasn't. There was not a chance for this insurrection to succeed. There wasn't on January 6th, nor was there last night, nor was there May 30th, 2020. You're not going to overthrow the government with a handful of people without firearms. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. We all know that. But the official story is we have to pretend that that's not the case when it comes to January 6th. And when you show how ridiculous it is by showing, well, let's look at the litany of left-wing attacks on the White House or other federal buildings, they're easily able to be like, of course that wasn't an insurrection. It wasn't going to overthrow the government. And what Pisco and them will say was, it doesn't matter if it didn't have the chance to succeed or it didn't succeed. What matters is that it happened. Okay, same's true of last night. It happened. Doesn't matter that they didn't make it into the White House. They tried. On that note, someone sent me this, and I thought it was very funny. This is after me and Pisco's debate. This is on his VOD. Now, I can't show because it's going to involve Destiny, but this blew me away. This is, I don't know where. I'll ask Pisco to send me the full video, but this is Pisco talking to Destiny like 3 years ago about January 6th. Let's hear what Destiny's opinion was, shall we?
Thought it was likely, and in that moment, who knows what was going to happen? You know, according to certain reports, Mike Pence wouldn't even go into a Secret Service detail car. But the underlying purpose of their presence
That's
there
Pisco
was
talking.
to stop the certification of Joe Biden as the next president of the United States. Anyone who denies that fact is denying reality. That was their purpose there.
How many people were at that protest?
Thousands.
So thousands of people showed up.
This is
with
before we all
basically
knew
no
about the election stuff. We didn't know everything. This is before indictments. This is months after it. Yeah.
resistance met, and all they did was walk around.
All they did was walk around.
Like what the fuck? Like
thousands at the protest itself. Are you asking how many people entered the actual?
yeah. Well, no, I'm saying that like so if you're telling me like what was their goal? Their goal was to stop the certification. They wanted to disrupt blah 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 blah. If thousands showed up to do that, shit would have been fucked. That's not what happened. That's not even remotely close to what happened, right?
Oh boy! Womp womp womp. What happened? So adamant now that everyone should be arrested. It's weird. Destiny's initial reaction was the initial reaction that any objective person would have. This wasn't a serious attempt to overthrow the government. There were thousands of people. They just walked around. They didn't do hardly anything. Wasn't an attempt to overthrow the government. Now it's changed, though, somehow. What's changed? Pisco says, he stops the tape there and says, well, there was indictments and stuff. There were indictments and stuff. Okay, so according to Destiny, we now know the FBI had a handful of people that they now knew were about to engage in an insurrection. But it was so few people that they didn't even share the information with the National Guard, with the Capital City Police. Yeah, thank you, Para. I appreciate it. I know I could be a little aggro at times, but yeah. That's the truth. These were pissed off people. I have no problem. By the way, this is a criticism that people like Pisco will levy at me all the time. I won't criticize Donald Trump. That's not true. I just don't give a shit about him. Like, for example, I don't even have to give an analogy. I won't even try. I was trying to come up with a sports analogy, but I don't know. There we go. There we go, Ethan. Looking for another ban on Twitch. Ban evade, Ethan. Good work. Hey, anyone who's a mod on Twitch, please feel free to go ahead and ban Ethan there. If you can't do it, I'll get over there right away. Thanks so much, Ethan.
What's that like?
Appreciate you using your real name this time. For the ban.
Like.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, thank you. But Ethan, congratulations on successfully getting me off my chain of thought there. That's good on you there. Handful of people, that was all that was involved, right? So what's changed? What's changed? Now, in Destiny's perspective. So 8 to 10 people were going to try to commit insurrection. Fine, whatever. I can find you 10 Antifa people that want to overthrow the government too that are involved in a riot. And? Do we treat it like it was this massive insurrection? No, we don't. As I said after the debate with Pisco, and I could get into it more, one thing I will give Pisco credit for is he's very good. I have to change the way I debate with Pisco versus most people that are good faith. And the reason is because Pisco's very good at running out the clock. So, for example, if I was debating Andrew Wilson and he was disagreeing with me on January 6th, and I said, Andrew, who was the person that was the tactical person that was in charge of defense of the Capitol on January 6th? Who was the most senior person in that? He would have said, I don't know, like the chief of police for the Capitol. And I would have said, yeah. Not Pisco. Pisco says, Donald J. Trump. Blah 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 blah. And I sit there patiently. I'm like, okay, wasn't Trump. Just because you say Trump has ultimate authority, we don't say who's the person that was most in charge of Benghazi, Barack Obama. We say the generals that were there and things like that. So when we're talking about the actual police agency, which agent? The Metropolitan Police Department. Actually, it's the Capitol Police. No, it's the Metro Police Department. Blah 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 blah. And then what happens is, we had 15 minutes to which debating anyone who's good faith and just would have said, yeah, the Capitol Police Chief, yeah. And I'm aware, and Pisco's aware because he's seen the testimony, he knows exactly what I'm talking about, so he's aware of the testimony of Stephen's son, the Capitol, he's aware. But he waits 15 minutes. Now, did that 15 minutes help the audience understand the issue better? No. Did it help make Pisco's point better, that it's Trump's fault? No. It just delayed. It was just feigning ignorance for the sake of delaying. That's it. So we have an hour and a half to get to this portion of the debate. And he knows there's a lot of testimony to get through, but every single thing. And the problem is, it is on me. And that's why I said I could get better when I'm debating people like him, because I should not even talk to him. I should just say, Stephen's son was the Capital City Police Chief that was tasked with the on-the-ground defense of the Capitol, like the Capitol Police Chief is every time there's an event at the Capitol. That could have saved me 15 minutes. But instead, I tried to be like, I want to involve you, because that's how I debate. That's how I talk to people. I ask them questions. They ask me questions. You can't do that with him. You can't. He will see the video of Jamal Bowman and just be like, well, wait a minute. Well, that video of Bowman, I still stand by what it says, and why would I be bad faith, and why wouldn't Republicans do that, and blah, 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 blah. And that's just seeing a video that clearly disproves it. So, for example, the part I was getting to, we got mired in Andrew asking what the definition of an insurrection was. That was 1/3 of the debate. Then we got mired into what was the FBI's role beforehand with the intelligence. Doing good, Econo Boy. But the part that's the most interesting, which we barely got to talk about, was once January 6th happened, why were the people that had the authority, that were necessary in the chain of command to dispatch the National Guard, why were they denying the request? That's the most interesting part. Why? And when the guy who's most responsible in that chain, right, Stephen's son, is the dude that he has to file the request. Now, is it true that Trump probably... I've seen arguments to the contrary, but I'm willing to say it is my firm belief if Donald Trump would have been like, I want the fucking National Guard right now, he'd have probably got it. Right? That's my belief. That ultimately, he could have overridden the recommendations of the people actually tasked with security below him, but he would have been called an authoritarian. You know how I know that? Because they were all saying they didn't want to do it because of optics. So what's that mean? What they're really saying is, we're worried that Trump, it will look to the outside world like, Trump's trying to steal the election, and now he's unleashed the military in the form of the National Guard to work as his personal guard to help him overthrow the government. So we don't like those optics. Now, you might say that's fucking insane, and maybe you're right, but that's what these people were saying. So if then on top of that, them already making that insane decision in position, if on top of that Trump would have came out and said, I hear you, but I'm going to go ahead and deploy the Guard anyways, what do you think they would have said? If they already said without Trump going over their head, in doing it. It looked bad optically. How would it have looked if Trump went over their head? How would that have looked optically? What do you think Pieta from the Army would have said? So when we have people then that were the ones that you're like, okay, we're delegating to you the security of the Capitol. In this case, the guy that's in charge, the literal guy that's in charge, Stephen Sund, requests the National Guard before January 6th, is denied by Nancy Pelosi's people. Legally, he has to go to the Sergeant at Arms, who, one reports directly to Mitch McConnell, the other reports directly to Nancy Pelosi. He has to go to them. He has to. That's the law. Before he can even make the request, he goes to the one under Pelosi first. One under Pelosi says, I don't like it because of optics. Goes to the one under McConnell. The one under McConnell says, call the guy at the National Guard, Walker. Later, after January 6th, he has lunch with the guy under Pelosi, or under McConnell, and says, I thought it was really weird that you came up with that suggestion like almost immediately. He says, right, because the guy under Pelosi, Paul Irving, called me and said, Nancy Pelosi will never allow the Guard. You got to come up with something. So the guy who had the authority to authorize the request from the Guard that directly reports to Nancy Pelosi before January 6th is telling the other guy, no, Nancy Pelosi would never allow it. That's odd. Then that same guy, on the day of January 6th, 12:57, he gets a call. Hey man, I need to request the Guard. Things are getting out of hand. He says, let me get back to you. For 71 minutes until they start to breach the Capitol. He says, I got to run it up the chain. The only person up the chain is Nancy Pelosi. So what was Irving's testimony? You know what Irving testified to? I never got a call until 2 o'clock. Which is blatantly a lie. Because Stephen Sund called him 11 times. And has records of those phone calls. So now we called the guy under Nancy Pelosi who we had to call. We said, can you dispatch the Guard? He says, I got to run it up the chain of command. 11 times he's called. Please, we need the National Guard. Please, we need the Guard. Please, we need the Guard. Please, we need them. What's his defense? The guy who operates under Pelosi? Did he have a good reason? He says, no, I never received a call, which is a blatant lie. Why? And why is no one curious? Why aren't the Democrats curious? Why isn't Nancy Pelosi curious? Why can't we subpoena Nancy Pelosi's phone records to see, did you talk that day? What was going on? Then once the authority for the request was given, now Stephen Sund has to take another step where he has to request, and it was basically delegated to people at the CIA and the Army. He now has to get in a phone call with them. And there's all these people on this call. Muriel Bowser. Pieta was a lieutenant general for the Army. And what's that lieutenant general saying? Here's a career man who's tasked with defending the United States, and he thinks he's seeing an attempt to overthrow the government. Please, can we send the National Guard that's 2 blocks away? He says, nah, I don't like it because of optics. So you're going to let Mike Pence die. You're going to let them kill Congress people because of optics. That's your argument? Or did you not think it was that big of a deal? Well, that can't be. That would go against the official narrative. It's almost like they wanted people to get into the Capitol. Odd, isn't it? Did they have motive? Of course they had motive. The FBI. Did you ever hear the story? For me, like, the story that really got me first pissed off about our government was Waco. And I remember, I tell this story all the time. It fucking kills me to even think about it. And I would love to find this clip. I need to find this clip so bad because it says everything we need to know about the government. Waco and their standoff, what was it, 50-something days with the Branch Davidians, the reason that this started was because the ATF had a budget coming up. So they wanted a big news story. So they didn't involve to call the local sheriffs or the local police. The local sheriff testified he had such a relationship with the Branch Davidians, he literally could have walked into their compound and been like, hey, David Koresh, you got to come with me, you got to answer some questions. That would have been it. No conflict. But no, instead, They just decided to go on. Allegedly, they shot their dogs first and then started a siege, which they lost. I don't know if people remember that. The ATF lost. The ATF had to call 911 because they ran out of ammo and were going to be executed. The Branch Davidians let them retreat. But that's what happened. The ATF, they weren't interested in protecting people and solving a potential crime with firearms. They wanted a news story to increase their budget. And then, not to get too far in the weeds, but for me, the deal breaker there's so much that was bad. Like, the Branch Davidians are on the phone with, like, the police and stuff, and they're saying, when you collect evidence, you'll see that the door was closed and they shot bullets through the door, which you can't do. Because you can't shoot blindly into a building like that. Particularly when you know there's dozens of children. So it would have been evidence of a crime committed by the ATF. You know what happened to that door? Well, there's video of it being taken into evidence, and then it disappeared. Just disappeared. Weird how that happens, huh? But for me, God damn. The worst part. The worst part of it was this. So after the 51 days, inevitably what happened was they burned up. A bunch of people died. What happened was they threw a bunch of tear gas. The FBI at this point, it's not the ATF, it's the FBI, threw a bunch of tear gas into the building. And then either the people inside or the FBI caused a fire because the tear gas was flammable, which ended up burning down the compound and killing many of the people. I think the evidence is overwhelming that the FBI probably threw a flashbang or something while that tear gas was there, which caused it to combust. But nonetheless, that's not the part I'm getting at. They found kids in the compound in like a pantry. And they didn't die from the fire, and they didn't die from bullets. When they found them, their bodies were burned up. But the coroner ruled that the way they actually died was that the tear gas was so strong and their lungs so small, and they were in an unventilated area, that the gas acted as strychnine. And it caused their muscles to contract to where it broke their bones. In what's described as one of the most painful ways you could imagine dying. And they fucking killed these kids like that. And I saw this clip where they're talking to someone from the FBI. And they said, why did you throw that tear gas in there like that if you knew there were kids in there? And the FBI's response was something that was basically tantamount was, we thought if we hurt the kids, the parents would come out. The FBI said, we're going to torture these kids. That'll end this. Now understand, the FBI's position is this is an insane religious cult. And their way of dealing with it is, we'll torture their children. Then they will act sanely and say, oh, our children are being tortured, now we'll leave. I can't think of a more evil action. Yeah, I've seen that 10 go, yeah. That, for me, was my moment where I was like, that's our government? So the ATF lets this get out of hand for a photo op so they can get an increased budget, and the FBI tortured children. Yeah, I know, Andy. So is it beyond the FBI or federal agencies if they think it'll increase their budget? Well, did the FBI have the motivation? Of course they did. Did federal agencies have the motivation? Of course. They're getting record budgets, in part because they have the largest task force in the history of their agency. Their number one threat is domestic terrorists. They're literally treating half the country like the enemy. They need more money every day. And by the way, the Democrats are more than happy to give it to them, and the Republicans are just as happy to go along with it. Did it benefit the Democrats and the Biden administration? Of course! It allowed censorship and weaponization against their political opponents. Thank you so much for the sub, Sparky. So when I talk about the January 13th insurrection, do I know it's bullshit that it wasn't really a serious insurrection and overthrew the government? Of course I do. Do I know that May 30th, that arguably was worse than January 6th, because actually the people May 30th, 2020, literally used lethal weapons against police. They threw firebombs at them, Molotov cocktails, unlike fighting them with fists and signs, like happened January 6th. Of course. But I also know January 6th wasn't a serious insurrection. It was never even remotely close to overthrowing the government. There were some assholes, just like there's some assholes in Black Lives Matter and most of their rallies, that probably wanted to do heinous shit to various degrees. Fine. That is less than 1%. The problem is, I'm not even an expert. If you know anything about like sort of crowd psychology, it is remarkably easy with only a handful of actors to turn a crowd into a violent mob. Things that would be necessary are people that are agitating, police responding with violence, police then fleeing. That's it. If you wanted to take any movement and make them look bad, it would be remarkably easy to do it. Remarkably easy. What was it? Right. Didn't pay attention to the news last night. Go look what happened outside the White House last night. Bunch of violent lefties holding Palestinian flags, trying to break into the White House, fighting with police outside forcing the evacuation of staff at the White House. Of course they didn't see Sparky. The media decided not to cover it. They didn't call those people that fled bunker bitches like they did Trump when he had to flee May 30th, 2020. Again, what we'll see is left's riot. It's not that big of a deal. Mostly peaceful. Arrest one person, arrest two people. Don't try to make it some grand conspiracy. Don't say that the people are connected in any way. Blah, 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 blah. And eventually, once more, after years of this again, we'll see one right-wing riot. And they'll go, oh my God, it's an insurrection. It's the worst thing that ever happened. Oh my God, deploy the FBI, those violent right-wingers. Literally, just use the claims they used in January 6th. They were armed. Did you hear when I was debating Pisco? Armed insurrectionists. I said, with what? Bludgeoning weapons? They had bludgeoning weapons? Oh, yeah, they did. Here, I was showing Pisco other weapons they had. You ready? Ready for other weapons they had? Oh, my God. A piercing weapon. It's a piercing weapon. I heard several people on January 6th were armed with piercing weapons. Projectiles? Whoa, projectiles? No! They know it's a joke. They know you can see the footage. I'm not going to say there wasn't violence that day. I've called out the violence. I have. It wasn't a fucking insurrection. So they have to die on this hill. It was an insurrection. It was violent. They were armed. Then anytime you see a situation, you're like, look, that looks like a violent armed insurrection. They'll go, what are they armed with? Flags? That's no big deal. They're just pushing on fences. That's not a big deal. Really? Because the judge said pushing on a fence for the Proud Boys was a, quote, terrorism enhancer, which spoke to his intent. Now, all of us know that's a joke, but that's the official law enforcement position. Then as soon as you're like, okay, now go after these lefties, correct? By the way, the irony is, if you were a fucking, like, Joe Biden-esque lefty, you could actually say, because it's not really about left and right. It's really not at the end of the day. It's about the establishment. The establishment says, we're going to bomb Yemen. We're going to do what we want to help Israel. And fuck you if you disagree. The only difference is, if you disagree and you're on the left, you're still useful to them. So they can't throw the book at you yet. But they will. I say this all the time. Go read the Gulag Archipelago. You know, we talked about Gonzalo Lira in the first section. The authoritarians that cheer for this sort of stuff, that cheer for the treatment of the January 6th people, the nonviolent ones, that cheer for Gonzalo Lira being arrested, if not dying. They might not be for the death, but they were for him being arrested in Ukraine. I don't know that we'll win. Like, that's the thing. I'm able to separate it. Maybe I'm delusional. Maybe that's the problem. I'm able to separate it. Understand this. I'm not advocating a world where my enemies are treated like me. I don't want those people last night outside the White House, even if I disagree with them. Even if they're flying Palestinian flags or Hamas flags. It doesn't matter. In fact, you don't even have to know what my position is on Israel, Palestine. Which I don't have strong feelings one way or the other. I respect both sides' right to complain. I think Hamas is a terrorist organization, but that's neither here nor there. But my political position's irrelevant. I truly, from the bottom of my heart, I don't want a large FBI task force hunting down people, sedition hunters looking at their face. I don't want that. The reason I say it's not my standard, it's their standard. That's the standard the left accepted and cheered for. They cheered for it. And I tried to tell them, one, it's immoral to do so, it's authoritarian, but second, can't you see it will be used against you or people like you? No, they said, never. It's coming. It's coming. And I don't want that. I don't. I really don't. I'll stick up for those people. If Dylan Burns gets arrested in Ukraine tomorrow in a province that Russia took over, I would speak up for him. I would say we need to get him back. I wouldn't say, well, that's what happens. If Destiny gets banned off YouTube, I'll stick up for him. And have, when he got banned from Twitch. There are people I hate, I don't want to say hate. There are people I really dislike. I stick up for them too. I don't want them censored. There's few exceptions. Obviously, there are things beyond the pale. You know, heinous acts against children, direct calls for incredible violence, things like that. That's a little different. But I would be lying to you if I told you I'm not going to laugh my ass off when it does happen. Because it will. It will. It just will. There will eventually, these progressives on the ground that are going to start criticizing the establishment Democrat position, by the way, the establishment Republican position too, might be over the Israel thing. Maybe Biden wins in 2024. I don't think it'll be Biden. I think it'll be a different Democrat, but Democrat wins in 2024. And then we start really getting into the helping Israel. Maybe we end up with a war with Iran. And there'll be an awful lot of lefties that are pissed off about it. And you might start to see more right-wingers are like, we're for this war. We're going to take the Nikki Haley position. And all of a sudden, all of these institutions will be directed at these people on the left. They'll be censoring them for disinformation online. They'll have task force going after them. Like Occupy Wall Street. These motherfucking people that would have cheered for you to be sent to prison will all of a sudden be going, what about us? Wait a minute. This is outrageous. Fuck them. I'll stick up for them if I feel like it. In principle, I don't want them targeted. But, yeah, I mean, Aftershock's right. They'll never change until they face the consequences of their own actions. Ever. They never will. They never will. I've tried my best. I've tried to reason with them. I've tried to articulate the details. They don't give a shit. Does that mean that I'm going to be like, oh, I hate you, screw you, I wish your channel would get kicked? No, I'm not going to do that. I'll still operate on a friendly basis. It's like, you know, Christmas Eve, the Haitians and the colonials playing soccer or whatever, playing games before the battle the next day. That's where we're at. I get it. They don't give a shit. They don't. I don't have a problem. It depends on what you mean by disruptive. In general, I don't mind protests at all, even if it's somewhat disruptive. I think that like something like blocking a public available street's pretty shitty. But like, I don't really have a problem that much with what happened last night. I really don't. If there's violence and but like the general just pushing back and forth, which by the way was the vast majority of January 6th. I was actually shocked when I started watching the videos. There's only like a handful of incidents where really I could say, yeah, that fucking dude deserves to go to jail. That's like throwing haymakers. But most of it's like a sign gets pushed. And then the cops get out their tear gas gun and shoot and it misfires. And it hits right at their feet. Then the cops start choking and they back up. Even the Ashli Babbitt shooting, when I actually I never wanted to watch it. I hate watching people die. I fucking hate it. But when I actually forced myself to watch it, like, I mean, I thought that it was like, they're in the Senate chamber, and there's a bunch of senators like this with their heads down, like scared shitless, and there's one last guy sitting there with a gun like, don't do it, don't do it. But it doesn't look like that's necessarily what happened. It looks like it was a hallway with doors, chairs kind of barricading a door, and a woman climbing up through the glass, but it doesn't look like there's victims right behind it. I still am not going to say that, like, that means that Michael Byrd was a malicious murderer. I'm not saying that. I understand if your charges, you think you're the last line of defense. I probably wouldn't have shot seeing that circumstance, but I don't think you criminally charge him. Like, it's one of those things with law enforcement, it's hard to make that split-second decision. But it's shocking, like, I don't know. It was a riot. It got out of hand. Police didn't help. It seems that there's an awful lot of suspicious activity to ensure that there was an inadequate police presence. Why? Aftershock, I could show you dozens of examples of left-wing violence where people were trying to climb over gates or climb through doors. None of them got shot. It seemed to work out. Again, me saying I'm not blaming him criminally, but I probably wouldn't have shot, is not the argument you think it is. The argument... Okay, I have to shut. Let me do it slow for you. No, I wouldn't have shot. Would it have been justified if I did? I don't know if justified is the right word. It might not have been the best procedure, but I don't think that you could criminally convict him for it. Got it? Thought I made that pretty clear in my statement. I'll say it again. No, I wouldn't have shot, but I don't know that you could criminally convict him for having shot. That in the moment, it might be difficult to make that decision. Yeah, plausible deniability on it. Right. I don't think you could charge him with murder. I don't. Not unless there was some evidence that's been withheld him in pre-planning, but I don't believe that's the case. So, last thing I'll say, because I don't know if I'll be able to stream tomorrow night. Can someone fact check me on this? Tomorrow's the Iowa caucus, correct? Yeah, Destiny reached out to me and asked if I was willing to come on tonight and talk to him about Epstein, but unfortunately I didn't notice until after I'd started streaming. And I don't think I could stream tomorrow. Unfortunately. I just work stuff. So seeing as how the caucus is tomorrow, I thought that it would make sense if this would be the day that I would officially give my recommendation of who to vote for, or at least tell you who I'm going to vote for and why and what I hope the outcome is. So maybe we'll see, maybe another half hour, but that's what I'm going to talk about here the next half hour. I don't think I've made it any surprise that I believe the person I will vote for, and keep in mind I'm in Pennsylvania, I'm not in Iowa, so by the time it gets to me, yeah, well, okay, before I get into this, let me just explain a little. My work schedule is absolutely insane, and the way that it works is I have to be at work, but I get downtime, but the downtime changes based on the circumstance doing healthcare, and so sometimes it might be that I have to be the person that's physically on site to make sure that the healthcare obligations are being met, and it looks like most Mondays and Tuesdays that's going to be the case for the foreseeable future. So until something changes and we hire more people, I literally just don't have the time. I just can't. And my job obviously comes first. I literally would have to end this at a moment's notice if anything obligated to my work came up. Do I have a growth point where I'd be able to quit my day job and do this full time? If I could make $100,000 a year streaming full time, I would do it. Until then, and even then would be iffy because it's not guaranteed income, but I'd probably take a risk for $100,000 a year. I'm 40. I'm 39. I'll be 40 in July. My life is no longer my life. I have obligations. I'm a husband. I'm a father. My financial decisions and my work ethic have to include them in all things I do. I can't quit to become a YouTuber or quit to become a bass player in some band or to join the World Slapping Tour or whatever, that slap fight. I can't do that shit. I have obligations. Thank you, Douglas Quaid. I appreciate it. I just do. I have obligations, and I can't take a risk like that. If I wasn't married, if I didn't have a son, sure, a risk like that's fantastic. But I can't take that risk. I just can't. So, you know, the job remains. This remains a hobby. All right. Now, Power Slap. That's the name of it. Yeah, I'm not going to be joining the Power Slap tour anytime soon. All right. First off, it's ironic that the person I'm supporting, I think I still mispronounced their name, but so that should give you a clue. But I will be voting for... How do you say it? It's not Vivek. It's Vivek. Yeah, Ramaswamy. That's who I'm recommending. I think he is the best choice for 2024. I'm sold on that. Unless something drastic changes between when I get to vote in the primary, that's who I'll be casting my vote for. Now, it is entirely likely that the primary is over and he has dropped out by the time it gets to Pennsylvania. I am predicting at least a 90% chance that Donald Trump wins. I think that it would take almost a miracle for him not to win. But that is who I will be casting my vote for. And I'll get into reasons why. If for whatever reason he can't win or he drops out, like he drops out tonight and he's not there, I would cast my vote for Ron DeSantis. I think that Donald Trump would be my third choice, and I think he's a distant third. I'm over him. I will support Trump in a general. I absolutely will. I hope that he proves my fears of him wrong. But at this point, from what I'm seeing, the thing that I talked about being Trump's potential downfall, he is exhibiting more and more every day. I have talked about this at great length on my show without picking who I would choose. I've talked about the strengths and the weaknesses of the people involved. Oh, by the way, if it's Nikki Haley, for whatever reason, I would vote third party. I will not vote for Trump I will not vote for any of those three if Nikki Haley ends up being their vice presidential candidate. And of the three, I think Trump's most likely to pick Nikki as a VP. If Trump wins the primary and picks Nikki as a VP, I ain't voting. Because there is no possible way in that world that Trump finishes out his term. So it's basically just voting for Nikki for president, and I'm not doing it. Nikki's a Democrat. That's why we don't like her. She's an establishment neocon, neo-lib Democrat. So, the strengths and weaknesses of the three. Vivek's strength. He, maybe even better than myself, correctly articulates what the problem is and says basically all the right things. That someone who is anti-establishment like me, that hates these institutions, he says everything right. That's it. He's 97% perfect in what he's saying. His downside. Is this who he always was? Doesn't seem to be. Prior to 2020, it doesn't seem like he was speaking like this. Is he just saying what he thinks a large swath of political people want to hear? Maybe. Does he sound too good to be true? By the way, think of how bad we are in a political situation where someone's saying the right things. We're so jaded because no one ever does anything to fight this corruption. And when someone's saying they're going to do it, we go, yeah, they're not going to do it. They're just telling me that. That's how bad of a political situation we're in. Really, it's that bad. A candidate come out and say and do everything perfect, and you'd be like, I don't trust this shit. And it's not your fault. You're right to be distrusting. But that's how bad we are. So that's Vivek. Ron DeSantis. Ron's strength is I think he is governed very well. I think he has most of the good parts of what MAGA and this sort of populism was supposed to be without a lot of the foibles of Donald Trump. So he might not have the personality that gets you super energetic or anything like that, but he doesn't have the personality that's going to make the opposition that energetic either, right? And if you're looking at just like results on the ground, I think he's done pretty good in Florida. I don't think he goes as far as ultimately I would want, but pretty good. The downside to DeSantis is, one, he doesn't have that charisma of Trump, so that's a double-edged sword. It doesn't provide that because Trump's his own worst enemy. The people that love Trump really love Trump, but the people that hate Trump really hate Trump. DeSantis doesn't seem to have that on either end, right? But the big concern with DeSantis for me is, I just don't think that the Ron DeSantis that I really like, that's clashing with reporters in Florida I don't know that that's who we'll get, because he's surrounded himself by a bunch of people that, in my estimation, are trying to convince him to be Trump light. Yeah, they don't want Trump. They don't want the MAGA wing. They understand that that's the direction the party's going, so they need some of that momentum, but they also want to be able to pull it in, rein it in a little. So you ain't going to see something like disband the FBI. You'll see, let's fire one or two people and move some people around. That'll be enough to shut those populists up, and then we'll get back to business as usual. Will DeSantis be able to overcome that? I don't know. Then you have Trump. Trump's downside simple. He was in office. Did he drain the swamp? Nope. And the DeSantis people that needle Trump's people, they're spot on this. I mean, the list is incredible. Dr. Fauci supporting lockdowns, massive budget spending, bombing places like Syria, didn't get the wall built, regardless if you think it was his fault or not. Seems to shoot himself in the foot with all kinds of decisions all the time. Appointed people like John Bolton, Christie. The list of people he's appointed that he now says are terrible, who's to say he'll do better next time? He had his chance to drain the swamp. He didn't do it. The upside of Trump is, but now he's learned his lesson. Now he understands how crooked and corrupt it is. And this time, if you give him a chance, he'll go in, pedal to the metal. Okay. Is that how it seems Trump's been acting? We put that message out on Truth Media, and it was like, you know, Ron wants to move the FBI headquarters out of D.C. I say we build him a nice new building in D.C. Does that sound like a guy who's going to fight FBI corruption? Give them the new building they want in D.C.? Still doing interviews with people in the mainstream press. Cornel West won't even be on the ballot because Democrats don't believe in democracy. They claim to want every vote to count as long as it benefits the Democrats, though. So they don't want Cornel West or RFK. Joseph, again, what Trump did versus will he be the best person going forward are two completely different things. Trump did a lot of bad shit policy-wise. Trump also accomplished something that probably no one else in the world could accomplish. He was probably achieved the biggest underdog political victory in the history of this country. He started a conversation and inspired a movement that actually, for the first time in my life, had a chance to actually start to put cracks in the insane amount of corrupt establishment institutions that we see. No one can take that away from Trump, ever. Ever. That doesn't mean he didn't do a lot of shit that's you should criticize for. By the way, if Vivek becomes president, which he won't, but if he would, and I voted for him, and he starts to do shit I don't like, just like with Trump, I'll call him out. There will never be a perfect president. There will never be a president or any politician that completely agrees with me. I am a single issue voter. I think that corruption is the biggest issue, and so I'm trying to decide who I think has the best chance of eliminating that corruption. I think that Trump has exhibited that he does not have the ability, he did not understand and learn from his first time in office to understand the gravity of what needs to be done to end this corruption, and he just gets sadder and sadder every day. Now, maybe it's gamesmanship. Maybe he knows he has it in the bag, and so he's jockeying for position in the general by some of the things he's saying, by not trying to seem as extreme. Could be. But like him attacking Vivek for saying, hey, vote for me to save Trump. Fuck you, Trump. Well, maybe it's a gamesmanship. Maybe him and Vivek are in on it. I don't know. And he's just saying that. Yeah, I'm generally against intervention. With DeSantis, I mean, I get the vibe with DeSantis. I don't even know how serious he takes this sort of lawfare against Trump. And I understand he despises Trump as a person, and most of his supporters do, and that's absolutely fine. I don't give a shit about him. Go to it. Don't care. You don't have to like the guy. But he kind of just seems so ho-hum, like, oh yeah, maybe we'd look at these court cases. We'll see. Maybe. It just, I don't know. It seems like his idea of draining the swamp will be like, we'll fire a prosecutor or two. Not enough. That brings us to Vivek. He's the only person saying disband the FBI. He's the only person saying get rid of 70% of the federal workforce. Yes. He's the only person correctly identifying the problem, that the problem is this bureaucracy, and that they operate under the president, and he has the ability to get rid of them. The FBI won't let him, though. So, let's say that the FBI won't let him. Okay, then why vote for anyone? True, they won't. They'll try to be as corrupt as possible. Yep. Tell me why I should vote for Trump then? Or DeSantis? What's the point? If the point is, it's not doable anyways, okay, then I'll at least vote for the guy who's claiming he's trying versus the two that aren't even saying that. Of course they'll fight back. What's the relevancy? Well, we can't actually vote for someone who would do the things to end the corruption because the corrupt people will fight back. So better to just, I guess, vote for Nikki Haley then, right? Can we put Mitt Romney on the ballot in that case? I mean, it's nonsensical. Now, Vivek might be full of shit. He may be. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is, at least there's one guy saying what needs to be done accurately. Let's say that I think there's only a 2% chance that he's able to accomplish it if he's elected. And there's only a 1% chance of him being elected. So you're saying there's a chance. What's the chance of the people doing the right shit if they aren't even saying that they're going to do it? 0. If anyone here is a Trump or DeSantis fan, which again, I'd vote for either in the general, don't get me wrong. But if that's your first choice, just tell me which one you're a fan of and give me an honest answer. Do you think, if you're a Trump fan, say I'm Trump, and then yes or no to this. If you're DeSantis, yes or no to this. Do you think that Trump or DeSantis will disband the FBI? Honestly. I don't see how any Trump or DeSantis fan could say yes to that. Yeah, that's what happened after that. They'd fire a person here or there, maybe move some personnel from this building to that building. They're not going to prosecute any of the FBI people that were engaged in the corruption we've seen from the past years. Not going to happen. Won't. They're not going to credibly disband or cut their budget. Won't happen. Then, if they start to do anything that's viewed as a threat, those same agencies that they refuse to take the power from will then weaponize against them, just like they did Trump. You don't come at the king and miss. Let me just quote Chuck Schumer. They'll find 6 ways of Sunday at getting back at them. If you don't get rid of them, nothing you do will matter because they ultimately have more power than you. Because the FBI is there to stay with tools that could ruin your life, that they could then leak to the press, that the press will go along with to take you down. Even if they don't throw you in jail, they will mire your administration in enough problems that no one will want to work with you, that'll make sure that you can't get your agenda passed. Yeah, Omar from The Wire did say that. You're right. Well, you don't think the FBI should be disbanded? That's perfectly fine. We're all entitled to our opinions. I hope the FBI never views you as an enemy and comes after you, and so you can say from a jail cell, maybe I was wrong about not wanting the FBI to be disbanded. Everything's good tonight. Don't forget to like, and don't forget to like. Trump's attack on Vivek, stupid. I agree with someone who said that it's a sign of weakness from Trump. I agree. There is a argument that this could just be show from Trump to make it seem like there's some sort of wedge between him and Vivek. I don't believe that. I think it's a sign of weakness. I think that Trump is willing to tolerate people until he views them as a threat. I think he viewed DeSantis as a threat, which is why he's been so hostile to them. I think he now views Vivek as a threat. I think Vivek's response was spot on. It is exactly... He is running his campaign exactly how I said DeSantis should have ran his campaign. DeSantis should have never attacked Trump once as an individual. And he should have ensured that his surrogates did the same. I've said this from day one, this is what DeSantis' campaign should have been. I'm Ron DeSantis, and I'll be running for president in 2024. First, I want to talk about how I got the opportunity to get where I am. I think no one could take away from the incredible achievements of Donald J. Trump. He is the best president in my lifetime, and he did something everyone thought was impossible. He challenged the swamp, and he won. Everything was against him going into the 2016 election, and despite all odds, he talked about issues that every other Republican was afraid to talk about, such as securing our border, and he was able to achieve a victory. Once elected, he faced an unprecedented attack from almost every agency that he had power over, combined with institutions such as the mainstream media, the Democratic Party, academia, social media, all engaged in smearing him in unfair ways to ensure that his administration was diminished in as many ways as possible. I think no one could take away from the incredible achievements that he had. I supported him fully in 2016, in 2020, and if he were to win our primary, I would do so again in 2024. If I were to win the primary and win the presidency of the United States, I would continue to support the legacy of Donald Trump by doing what he did, except going even further. He was the right man for the job in 2016, and now I could take that torch and carry it even further now in 2024. Despite the incredible achievements of Donald Trump, there were some things that he could have done better. He unfortunately, and you could understand why, trusted people like Dr. Fauci and medical experts who had the will of the country and the health and well-being and financial stability of the country's interest not at heart. Instead, they sought to scapegoat Donald Trump and to punish many people in this country. I will ensure that those people are held accountable and make sure going forward that we never make these authoritarian decisions again for the American people. Secondly, he did not go far enough in disclosing documents to show how corrupt institutions like the FBI are. I will immediately pardon people like Julian Assange. I will release the documents that show just how far the FBI went into interfering not just in the 2016 and 2020 elections, but going after you, average people. I'll make sure that we don't have massive spending budgets that unfortunately we have seen for the past 7 years. It's understandable that Trump, a businessman, was right to try to come to the negotiating table, but he just underestimated how corrupt the Democrats are and how they will spend this nation into oblivion. So I respect Trump. I will not be running a negative campaign, and if he's upset that I'm running against, that's absolutely his right. He is entitled to have feelings of anger and animosity seeing the corruption that he's gone against and what he's seen. But I think for the reasons I've outlined above, that I would be the next president of the United States, and I would be able to take this country in a direction that was even further than what the MAGA movement started. Remember, even though Donald Trump may have started this movement in a significant national stage, it's about more than one man. It's about more than me. It's about more than Donald Trump. It's about more than the other people running. It's about you, the great people of this country who hasn't had adequate representation because corrupt institutions have targeted you from Washington and other places of prominence around this country for decades. And we are going to end that. That's it. That's DeSantis' campaign. But then, Rob, what happens when DeSantis comes out and says your wife, or Trump comes out and says your wife fakes cancer? Don't respond to it. Simple. That's basically what Vivek's doing. Vivek it's basically his entire campaign is the speech I just gave. That's it. The polls are bullshit. I don't put much weight. I still put the chance of any Republican, except maybe Nikki Haley, if they were running against Biden, of winning at less than 10%. It's too corrupt. The amount of scandals and stuff that'll come out before the election will be unbelievable. But DeSantis didn't do that. Instead, DeSantis went with option B, and option B was try to cater towards MAGA vote, but also try to cater towards more of the establishment wing, the donor class. Be the, look, I'm the necessary evil to the donor class. I got the good parts of Trump so I could still bring his audience along, but I'm willing to deal with you people as well. That was the choice he made. Okay. And I don't think that I'm entitled to have my opinion represented by anybody running. I'm not saying that. But that's what I've seen DeSantis has done. I am not blaming DeSantis surrogates, many of whom I find shitty. But I'm also not blaming Trump for his surrogates, many of whom I find even shittier. I'm trying to just look at the candidates themselves. I think that if you're willing to say, I just dislike this person so much that's why I'm not voting for them, even in the general, that's a huge mistake. One bad take I saw from people with Vivek's response was, Vivek didn't even have the guts to call out Trump. Right, it's called politics. It's smart. Right. Trump attacked Vivek and Vivek didn't even come out. Right, that's what DeSantis should have been doing. And then he probably would have won. But he didn't. Okay. Doing good, Ninja. What do they want? Hey, fuck you, Trump! That's what they wanted. Great political move. Yeah, I saw John Burke said that. He's just wrong. I don't know what to say. The problem, I think, with John's position and a lot of others' positions, I think John accurately points out the failures of Donald Trump on policy. I agree with that. I think he does. But I think it's unmistakable that John hates Trump on such a visceral and personal level. Not just because of Trump, but because of Trump surrogates. People that he interacts with on Twitter, for example, that are Trump supporters. He hates them so much that he doesn't give a fuck. That's almost more important. Saying fuck Trump's almost more important than actually having a good campaign that has a chance to move this country in a good direction. And I can't, if people are sending you threats and you're getting doxxed and shit like that, I can see how you'd come to that position. I'll tell you right now, and again, we're a day out from the Iowa caucus. I'm fucking tired of all of it. I am, and I do this as a hobby, and I'm tired of it. The Trump people fucking suck. The DeSantis people fucking, everyone sucks. Can I just say that? Myself included, I fucking suck. Is there one likable influencer? One? You like Laura Loomer? You like Brandon Dilley? You like... What's some of the one? Bill, I forget his name? The DeSantis person? Vivek did stand up for himself by saying, rising above it. What? Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't... Like, it's the same with, like, talking to Pisco about Trump and shit, right? Well, it's not that I wanted Trump to call in the National Guard, but he should have at least picked up the phone. Okay, so if Trump does this on January 6th, he picks up the phone and goes, hello, Stephen's son, Capital City Police Chief, can you patch me into his call that he's having with everyone else? Yes, everyone on this call, Donald J. Trump's coming in. Okay, I just want to hear your all's opinions. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm requesting the National Guard, but this guy at the CIA here is saying we don't want it for optics. And Trump goes, oh, okay, then we'll say no because of optics. Pisco would say, that's good enough. There, Trump, he took steps. But he just did exactly what they said. That's good enough. So what's this with Vivek? If Vivek would have just said the exact same thing but said, fuck you, Trump, and then said the exact statement, there, he stood up for himself. What one sentence did you want Vivek to say? What was the one, what would have qualified as him standing up for himself? What would that be? I don't know. And the people that are like, here's an attack on Vivek because he didn't stand up for himself. What the fuck are you talking about? But as bad as I find that opinion, it pales in comparison to the litany of Trump supporters that were kissing Vivek's ass up until 10 seconds after Trump said something mean about him. What did you think was happening? The guy was running against Trump. It's like they woke up, wait a minute, this Vivek guy says he prefers himself as the candidate. No shit, that's why he's running. That's you just now realized that, did you? I totally agree with that, Levin. Trump had a reason. Trump went after him because... Thank you, Senpai. He went after him because he feels that Vivek's becoming more of a threat. Or that Vivek's going to now siphon enough of a percentage that it'll hurt Trump in the long haul. When someone's seen as harmless, Trump's not going to go out of his way. I mean, for God's sakes, Trump, did you see this speech the other day? I just saw a part of it, which is called Hillary. I call her Beautiful Hillary now. Beautiful Hillary. Beautiful. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, is there any... I mean, again, I can't stress this enough. I'm just riffing off my gut here. I don't have proof. This is just my gut. I think Trump views it all like a game. He feels it all like negotiating around the table of real estate development, where you could be like, fuck you, I hope they arrest you and throw you in jail forever, fuck off, he's the worst ever, take him to court, sue him for everything he has. And then the next day it's like, want to go out to dinner? The litigation's done now, let's go. That's how he looks at it. Mortal enemies that he tells you are the worst people in the world, 2 days after they're no longer running against him or involved against him, he's like, they're not such a bad person. People that totally support him, as soon as in the moment they're seen as a hindrance, fuck them, I never liked them. No, I don't think that's true at all, Aftershock. You don't think Trump thinks he can beat Vivek? You don't think Trump thinks he can beat DeSantis? Of course he thinks he could beat them. The problem is when they seem to become a hindrance to them. Oh, that I don't know. Yeah, of course he's pulling lower than Haley. The polls are bullshit anyways, but Haley will probably outperform Vivek because so much of Vivek's support would come from Trump supporters who are going to vote for Trump. I'm just tired. Like, all these like, I don't know. Like, and it sounds like sour grapes for me. I'm sorry, but this is just honest to God how I feel now. There are great people. You want to know a great online person? Aircraft Sparky. My friend Let's Be Frank. My friend Sarah Kane. My friend Drone Tech. Great people. Awesome. We're not really moving the needle. John's a good guy. I don't agree with him on everything, but he's a good guy. There are others, obviously, that just on the top of my head I'm not coming up with. But most of the people that, like, have a big influence, they fucking suck. They do. They're terrible. They're egotistical. It's more about them than the cause that they seem to be. I go back to my litmus test, man. You could say what you want about me. There are tons of legitimate criticisms to make about me. Did I ever shy away from talking ill of Donald Trump? Nope. I probably spent more episodes while Trump was president calling out Trump's presidency than most of the now anti-Trump DeSantis supporters. In fact, I almost guarantee it. I don't know if you could find one of them. Unless they were always never Trump. They just were like, I'm voting for Hillary, but I'm Republican, like Bill Kristol or something. Yeah, that's true too, Beatrix, yeah. I felt like I was shouting into the void when Trump was making all these dumb decisions. Trust the plan, they said. Trust the plan. Joseph says, people don't want to let the deep state get away with how they treated Trump. How can they vote against Trump or not for Trump, I think you're saying, without saying it's okay for the FBI to spy? This is the issue. It's a great issue, and that's what Vivek's trying to answer, right? Vivek's answer even on Tim Pool's show the other day, he's trying to thread a fine needle. I mean, the truth is, the attacks against Trump have been effective. Not just the spying, but the attacks in general have made a huge section of this country unwilling to ever vote for Donald Trump. They'd probably be willing to, like, use physical violence to prevent Donald Trump from being president. That's a huge portion. Does that mean that Trump can't pick up enough other people? No. But it makes it very hard. Much harder. There are people I know personally that are staunch conservatives, that have voted conservatives, Reagan conservatives since the 80s, have been voting even since before then. Several of the people I know that are elderly people will not vote for Donald Trump under any circumstance whatsoever. At all. Because he's crude and vulgar. If you just showed policy prescriptions that maybe he'd suggest, they might say, yeah, I like that. But then if you're like, those are Trump's, they'd be like, too crude, too vulgar. I don't like him as a person. Is that fair? Probably not. Is it smart? Definitely not. But it doesn't matter. And so the argument is a practical argument. If Trump can't win, and you care about Trump and are against him being spied on and the weaponization of the FBI, etc., then vote for Vivek or vote for DeSantis. Because they are going to make a point that they're able to win a general election with a better chance than Trump, and they would make sure that Trump is vindicated. That's the argument they're trying. You might say, I disagree with that. But that's the argument they're trying to make. That's the point. You might say, well, if Vivek's argument is they won't leave Trump win under any circumstance, why would they leave Vivek win? Wouldn't they just screw him over? And if they wouldn't screw him over, doesn't that prove that he's not really out to help Trump? Well, no, because I think the answer Vivek would say is they've just had more time to gather more ammunition on Trump. They're not going to come up with 4 court cases, felonies, for Vivek if he wins the primary in the 6 months before the general election. It's not possible. They will do that with Trump. It's also not possible to do that with DeSantis. Now, you might say, well, if Vivek or DeSantis would win, they'll drum up a bunch of court cases. That could absolutely be true after they win. And so maybe then there's an argument, well, they shouldn't be the incumbent then. They shouldn't run again. That's a different argument altogether. You know, the brainwash has been for 8 years of Trump. With DeSantis or Vivek, you're going to get what? 7 months? 8 months? It's not that it still can't be effective, and they might bring out any trick in the book. They will. They'll try anything. But I'm just over, I'm so over it. Like, I don't, maybe I'm misreading it. Maybe I'm jealous deep down. I don't think so, but maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. But I've had a gutful. I just really have. Like, it's incredible. It's just incredible to watch the pettiness, the personal shit. That's why I haven't really weighed in on it. You know, and to the extent, you know, I was doing these spaces with John Burke, and so many people would call in and just like, fuck Trump and all of his supporters, and you're all a cult, and this, that, and the other. And it's like, all right, man. I don't know. That's your right. And I'm not... I tried to tell them, I'm like, you understand when you do that, then there's people that are Trump supporters that are going to say this, well, then fuck DeSantis. And if he wins the primary, I'm not voting for him in the general. I'm not going to do that to either of them. I'm going to support DeSantis or Trump in the general, despite what I think is the annoyance of so many of their surrogates. Yeah, it is. It's like high school drama. And like, I get the distinct feeling... I don't know if this comes across. I hope this comes across, even if you fucking despise me. I hope this comes across. I truly believe what I say. When I talk about the weaponization of our justice system to sort of silence political opponents, I fucking mean it. I mean it from the bottom of my heart that it needs to be dealt with. But when I see people putting their personal ego over top of that, well, if my guy doesn't win the primary, then fuck Trump. I hope he goes to prison. What? Maybe you don't really care as much as me, then, about that sort of shit. You know, best case scenario, which will never happen, but I will be cheering for Trump to not win in Iowa. I think Trump will win. But the best case scenario is Vivek wins for me. Vivek. I keep mispronouncing. But DeSantis would be a number 2. I wish Trump would jump out. That's what I wish. I really do. And I know that'll infuriate every Trump supporter. I wish Trump would jump out, support DeSantis for president, and DeSantis would make Vivek attorney general. And acquiesce to Vivek to disband the FBI. And that Trump would still be attached to the administration as sort of an advisor and sort of a venerated, this guy's going to run like sort of our media empire. That's the best case scenario, that they would all work together and tell Nikki Haley to kick rocks. What's up, Jason? But it's not going to happen. That's the best case scenario, though. So, my opinion is, I think Trump wins tomorrow. I don't know that he wins by the scale that the polling suggested. I think a Trump win is really hard for DeSantis, because DeSantis, and not a bad strategy of focusing on Iowa, because DeSantis he needs to show sort of the donor class and just regular people like me, for example, not me particularly, because I've already said I prefer DeSantis to Trump, but I prefer Vivek over him. He needs to show people like there is an alternative. I could do this. I could win. Because right now there is this sense in almost every state that Trump is the default winner. And so if he wins in Iowa, that sort of starts to change that narrative. By no means does DeSantis winning in Iowa mean, that's it, he wins the primary. But if he doesn't win, it's going to be more of an uphill battle. Jack Vasovic, I'm not a big... I don't know what to say. Honest to God, I'm trying not to burn any bridges, and I don't mean personally. That's not what I mean, though that would factor in somewhat. But I mean, I'm sitting here trying to look at the general election, and I'm looking at another Democrat victory, literally giving them a mandate to basically control the internet with AI, censor anyone they don't want, have the border open irreparably where we'll never be able to get the country back and fix it, strip away our First Amendment rights, censorship, lead us into more perpetual wars, have more authoritarian positions regarding personal choices I could have in the name of climate change. And I'm trying to think, what is the best moves I could make in order to facilitate a coalition that will be able to stop that from occurring? And so I don't want to come out and be like, I'm fucking tired of what, and I'm just going to throw random names out. I'm not saying, tired of Dave Rubin, tired of Steve Deese, tired of Jack Poso, tired of Tim Pool. I don't want to do that, even if I feel that way, because I feel like once this primary's done, I'm going to have to be I don't want to say, what's the way to put this? I'm not going to be a huge influencer. I know that. I know that's not what I'm going to be. So I'm going to have to get my message out there and hope that one of those people that are an influencer hears my message and it ends up getting put out there to help push us over the finish line. So I've been trying to stay above the fray. That doesn't mean I'm better than people. That's not what I'm saying, though. Yeah, let's be honest, I'm better. I'm saying I just don't see the infighting to the extent of like, fuck you, your person's wrong, blah, 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 now let's go have a beer. Don't have a problem with that. But the infighting, like, people getting doxxed and shit, it's just fucking insane. Yeah, I heard, Roy. Kevin Sorbo heard about me. So, that's my opinion. So we'll see. I probably won't be streaming tomorrow night, unfortunately, but I'll probably be randomly posting on Twitter. Hopefully the caucus goes well. You know, back to what today's show was about. Gonzalo Lira. Sorry I misspelled your name, buddy, in the opening. Horrible tragedy. I'm so sorry that he passed away. I'm sorry for his family. Rest in peace. Shame on the Biden State Department. Shame on Ukraine. They are authoritarians. They don't deserve any more money. The January 13th insurrection, never forget it, how it changed our country. No one was arrested. The left rightfully mocks you, calling it insurrection. What do you mean armed? All they had was flags. Now do January 6th. And then we talked about the caucus, so Anything else people wanted to hit real quick before I head out? Destiny messaged me and see if I would get on to talk about Epstein. Unfortunately, I didn't see it until I was already streaming. Maybe I'll reach out to him later in the week, but I don't... I guess I'd have to dig in a little, but for me, all I need to know is that 2 guards fell asleep while 2 cameras malfunctioned. That's all I need to know. Oh, yeah, I should push him on that vaccine debate. He didn't want to do that with me. He'll have to go down a rabbit hole doing a ton of research before that for me. But someone did mention to me, messaged me, or put under one of my videos that Destiny said that I was one of the nicest conservatives. Listen, there are definitely, depending on the type of show I'm doing, when I'm doing my own show, I'll call someone stupid, this, that, and the other. I get a little antagonistic and shit like that. Whatever. I appreciate Destiny called me nice. I appreciate anyone, even if I disagree with them, calling me nice. I think niceness is a good virtue, but sometimes detrimental. Sometimes you don't want to be nice. I hope that I approach things in a way where I'm nice but effective. I'm not a pushover. But here's the truth. I don't know if people believe this, but this is the actual truth. I love debating. I absolutely love debating. I love debating as a young kid when it was just arguing about which cartoon character, which X-Men was the coolest. I love debating about sports all through high school and college with friends. Once I got to college, I absolutely loved the game of debate, policy debate, NDTC to debate. Loved it. And I was pretty good at it too. And I loved talking politics, and I love debating politics. I absolutely love it. But you know what I like even more? I like being a dad. I like being a husband. I like hanging out with my real life friends and politics barely coming up. That's what I like. I see a space on here online for someone like me that isn't being filled. That's what I see. I don't see a person that comes from things like the angle I do, that has the ability to debate like I do. I don't see it. But I wish I did. I would probably cut way back on what I do, to be honest. I don't need to be the big man. I don't. I don't at all. I swear to you I don't. I don't want to run for Congress again. I did it because I felt I had to. I don't want to do it again. It costs so much money and so much time. And I just want to hang out with my family. That's all I fucking want to do. That's all I want to do. From the bottom of my heart, I'm not a mean person. I'm overly nice. Like, overly nice. That's just in my blood. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, I guess I'm a little like Adam Sandler in anger management. Or I guess if I'm pushed so far, I could go off the fucking handle. But I'm not a violent person. There are people in my... Like, I could tell you... Like, if my friends and family are on here, they could tell you story after story of people that have just walked all over me and treated me like shit that I still approach with a smile on my face. And you can't cover that up. It's just authentically who I am. But I also have to be someone who fights back because no one else does. No one does. I get in a panel. I'm with the conservatives. All right, who you got? Biden or Trump? The lefties, Biden, 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 Biden. The conservatives, Biden, Biden, not voting. And then me. That's who we're dealing with most of these panels. With these online spaces. And then, or the fucking crazy insane people. That are just like so scorched earth. I don't know. Attacking people's wives and families and shit. I don't know. So I do appreciate if someone says that they think I'm nice. I am being authentically who I am. This is who I am. There you go, Aftershock. You could replace me. I'd be fine with it. Go for it, man. I mean, I'll still do my thing. But I don't know. I struggle with it all the time. I really do. And not just on here, like in my personal life. There are people, like, how do you fucking, there are people I know, I absolutely know, that would have voted, if it was up to them, would have voted if I wasn't vaccinated to take my kid away from me. I guess I don't 100. If I 100% knew that, I'd be like, fuck you, I'm not talking to you. But in my heart, I believe that's probably true. And there I am at the picnic with them, like, hey, how's it going? I just don't care anymore. I don't want to put it that way. I'm jaded. I'm to the point where it's like, when I didn't have a kid, it was different. It was completely different. 2018, 2019, 2020, I'm doing videos and shit. It was different. But now it's like, I'm almost to the point where it's like, I told you. I told everyone. No one wanted to listen to me. No one gave a shit. Told you. I remember how many times in the lead up to the 2020 election did I do a show where I was like, what the fuck is wrong with people? Over and over I talk to these right-wingers that are like, Trump's going to win 48 out of 50 states. I'm like, you're fucking insane. You have no idea what's coming down the pipe. You have no idea what they're willing to do to make sure Trump doesn't win again. No idea. The impeachment hearings in 2019, I'm sitting here doing 10 times better than the damn Republicans on the committee. And how, what am I supposed to do? Keep digging? Keep going? Just keep digging away, right? I got a kid, man. I got a wife. That's what makes me happy. If I die tomorrow, that's what was great in my life. My mark that I left on a political landscape or something like that, whatever. None of that means shit. I hope the mark I made in my son was important, and the mark I made in my wife. I don't know how else to put it. I struggle with that. I don't know how to overcome that. That's how I honestly feel. You know? I feel like when I could put all of my energy into it, no one wanted to listen. And now it's like, oh, there's a market for this. I could be an influencer and I get money from X or Twitter or whatever it's called now, and it's whatever. Okay, great, grand, do it. I don't care. I just like if Vivek won and he disbanded the FBI and everything, if we got a what's his name, Millet there in Argentina, if we got someone like that, my God, it'd be nice to barely stream and just be like, things are going great politically. Alex Jones talked about this. Right, where he's like, he's waiting, there's talented people coming up, pass the torch. I don't feel like I have a torch to pass. What if it's my torch? I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm some big influencer. I'm not. I'm small potatoes. The average lefty on Twitch talking politics gets more people than me. I'm fucking, but I just, anymore, it's like, I work so many hours. I get so little time with my family. And it's like, okay, I'm getting ready for a show and I come on and it's like every fucking influencer on the right is just an idiot. Personal infighting and ego and bullshit. And it's just like, oh my God. I don't know. That's just how I feel. Thank you so much, Recur, for the super chat. Rob is appreciated by fellow conservative. I appreciate it. I'm not even the best conservative, the most conservative person. I'm not. I don't know, but that's how I feel. Having said that, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. I'm not. I'm still going to be doing this when I find time. Make me a successful streamer. Yeah, I guess. Hey, man, I'm still reaching out. So, rescheduled, I'll tell you. I'm going to be doing Ian Crossland's show. Let me find that date for you. Ian is the co-host to Tim Pool. He is the person who moderated the Alex Jones Destiny debate. I will be doing his show Thursday, February 8th at 1 p.m. I do want to give a shout out to Carantos from Kick or Keep, a show that Destiny co-hosts, for offering to allow me on his show, I believe tomorrow night. Unfortunately, it's 6 p.m. I can't do it. Wick TV offered to get me on some panels. Again, most of these panels are earlier in the day, and I just can't do them regardless. And then my Monday through Wednesday now are so tight. I'm trying to get on more stuff Thursday, Fridays, and even Saturdays. But those Mondays through Wednesdays now with my work, there's just things changing. It's so tough. So I could do split second, like, okay, I could come on and do my own show. But I take very seriously making obligations to people. If I tell someone I'm going to do their show, I really, really want to make sure that I'm able to do it. And I don't want to schedule shows and time periods that I know that there's only a 15% chance that I can make it to. So I don't want anyone to get hurt feelings if they're like, I invited Rob to this 9 o'clock show on Monday, and he said he couldn't do it, but then he streamed his own show. Well, that's probably because I got finished for work in an unexpected way. Can I find a regular job that pays as much and allows you the right time slots? Like what? Maybe, but not in the area I live. And I'm not moving. And I like what I do a lot. And I get to work a lot of ridiculous hours, which brings in a lot of money that's necessary for my family. So even if I found something with a comparable hourly wage, which I'm basically making $21 an hour now, I don't think it would work out. So we'll see, though. Maybe I do Tim Pool's show. You know, it's a double-edged sword. If I get bigger, then I'm more of a target. Then what? Am I getting swatted? Is my family getting doxxed? Shit, that's something to think about. But whatever, I guess you take that. But yeah, I mean, if I got big enough where I could do it full-time, then I would get an enthusiasm for it and I would do it full-time. Wick show's horrible, please don't. I moderated Wick doing a debate against Andrew Wilson, and I've seen him on panels. I don't dislike him necessarily. I think his opinions suck, but he's a lefty. What do you expect? But I've never seen his show. I don't know anything about it, so. Only do OnlyFans? Yeah. Do they still do non-pornographic OnlyFans? Is that it's like people do OnlyFans just kind of like exclusive Patreon? Not that I'm doing it anyways, but. Yeah, I assume all the panel stuff. I don't even want to do panels anymore, to be honest with you. I fucking hate them. Like, I don't like that I get a limited amount of time to talk, and I don't like having partners, if I'm completely honest. I'd rather it be me versus 9. Thanks for the super chat, Joseph says. I'll say it for you if you want more content. Well, thanks, Joseph. We talking harp? I could lose weight. You think that make me more marketable? I think I look... Alright, I'll lose weight. What's today's date? Let's check it out. Today is January 14th. So I think I'm back up to 270 pounds, we'll say. So 270 pounds. So let's see. April 14th is a Sunday. So by April 14th, I'll weigh 240 pounds. How's that? I'll lose 30 pounds in 3 months. 10 pounds a month. That seems reasonable. Yeah, Sparky, we could do another if you want. Let's do it. April 14th will be weigh-in day. Someone mark it down. I'll write it down. Me versus Sparky. Last time I lost to Sparky. But Sparky lost something like 7,000 pounds last time. I did okay. And I will say that my heaviest, I weighed 330 pounds. So 270 is a 60-pound loss for me. Yeah. Do I think government controls the weather? Sometimes. All right. April 14th. So I'll weigh in tomorrow, Sparky, and I'll send you a picture. And that'll be 3 months. There we go. That's awesome, Roy. That's really impressive achievement. It really is. Alright, me versus Sparky again. We'll have to agree on some stakes. And exactly what the metrics will be. But, yeah, sounds good. It'll be something. Oh, and also tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a good day, and I'll tell you why. some of the clients that I work with, so I work with people with developmental disabilities, some of them really like the local sports teams. And of course, tomorrow is the Steelers playoff game. So we're going to do pizza party stuff. I think it's going to be great. Also, my one friend that I work with, a client that I work with, he has the best sports mindset I've ever seen. Guess what team he cheers for? Can you guess what team my friend cheers for that I work with? He's got a foolproof system. Whoever wins is his favorite team. So I lose like every bet. 100% accuracy rate of the teams he cheers for. Who's winning? That's who I like. And then they lose the last second field goal. I like that team. It's like, nailed it again, buddy. You did it. So it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I think the Steelers will get crushed. But that's okay. It'll still be fun. I don't get into sports like I used to. It's just a casual thing. And I thoroughly enjoy when I work with someone with autism or something like that that's got a hobby they're really into, like fishing or music or movies or sports. I really enjoy participating with them. So I always enjoy, even though I can count the number of sporting events I've watched outside of work on my hand for the past year, so I just really don't watch anymore. I love watching them while I'm at work because I think it's cool to work with people's hobbies and things they get really into. So that's cool, and I'll enjoy that. So probably between that and the caucus, it'll be a fun night. We'll see what's going on. But all right. Feel free, by the way, people can call me fat bastard and all that would have to encourage me to lose weight. I don't mind any of that stuff. I really don't. So, all right. Thanks so much, Sparky. Thank you, Aftershock. Thank you, everyone that donated, Joseph, others. Really appreciate all of you. Even the meathead that called in, thank you as well. Whatever your name was, Ethan. And don't thank him. Never mind. But yeah, I'm just gonna head out. I guess I should try to raid someone on this. The problem is when I try to raid people on this computer, it keeps crashing. But we'll try our best. Mute. Oh, how about let's raid Stardust? Why not? Stardust is. I'm not raiding Irrelevant. Stardust is fine. Oh wait, I'm putting it in the wrong. Don't put words in her mouth. I remember that. Don't put words in her mouth. I remember that. I wonder if she remembers that. I remember that. I wonder if she remembers that. I remember that. I wonder if she remembers that. All right. I wonder if she remembers that. All right. I really wanted to help her out in her debate against Andrew Wilson there a couple months ago about Hunter Avalon. I thought I could have helped her, but I stayed out of it. All right, you guys are the best. Thanks. You make this worthwhile. Thank you to everyone who donates. Thank you to all those that just watch and can't donate. I appreciate all of you. It's a great community. I'm so happy to be part of it. Hopefully, whoever you want to win the caucus tomorrow wins the caucus. Whoever you want to win the football game wins the football game. And hopefully I'll be talking to you by Wednesday evening. I'm looking forward to it. So thanks so much, everyone. As always, have a good one.
Or the reasoning behind it, or is there no reasoning and it just is what it is? What do you think?
I think it varies depending on the person, and everybody has their own reasons for why